Hello, welcome to the stream. Sorry, we're starting a little late. So there's been a development. Something. First off, can you guys hear me out there? Everybody can hear me all good? I'd like to think so. I think you should be able to hear me, but we're the mod is running a little late. Something must have come up. So, what I think we can do, we can hear you. Great. Thank you so much. All right. So I think what we're going to do is I put out the call for to see if anybody could sub in as a mod. Kind of spur of the moment, but we'll see if that happens. Until then, I think I'm going to pull Ghost into a Discord channel. And I'm just going to have to play a little nicer than I normally do. And we'll just try to have a back and forth here without a mod until either Emmett can show up or someone else can jump in. So I think that's what we're probably going to plan on doing here. So just hold tight. Let me get things situated here. 1 second. You know, the topic is, the prompt is abortion is a net positive for society. You have the affirmative. I have the negative. So there's a 5-minute opening. So you would go ahead and start. Let me just let me bring up a timer real quick. Hold on.
Okay. Can I just a couple questions before we like properly get stuck into it?
Okay.
Well, one thing is just that, like, my PC like crashes sometimes, so if I just like disappear, just like give me a few minutes just to like come back.
No
worries. It should
worries.
be fine, hopefully.
Yeah, I won't claim victory if you drop. No worries.
That's fine.
Okay.
The other thing is, it's an hour of back and forth. Is that right? Like roughly? I
Correct.
don't know how
Yes.
strict the time is.
Yeah.
Okay. And
since it's just two of us, we'll play with it loosely. Like, it's fine. But
yeah,
I'll go
fine.
and I'll go ahead and start the timer for your opening whenever with your words. So you have the floor.
Cool. Sure. Okay. So I believe that bodily autonomy generally is something that we would all agree is valuable, unless there is a situation where we have good reason to believe otherwise. So, for example, if I had like a small metal object in my leg that I didn't want there, especially if it has some type of risk for like physical or psychological harm, then it seems that we would agree that it would be okay to remove it. So where abortion is concerned, like while I agree that a fetus is a unique human life, it still falls under a bodily autonomy violation due to said fetus depending physically on the mother's body for its survival. Not to mention the aforementioned like physical and psychological health risks that are involved. While I do believe that bodily autonomy has its limits in its applications to scenarios with human persons, I believe that given the particular circumstance of abortion, where we have a non-conscious entity, the fetus, violating someone's bodily autonomy with no prior establishment of personhood, I see it as justified in this instance. I take personhood to be an established human experience through consciousness, which emerges in the brain after around 24 weeks. Once the experience is established, I would uphold the view that we should value some type of psychological continuity. So to address the prompt more directly, I believe that abortion is a net good for society because, one, it would reduce the total amount of physical and mental distress experienced by many pregnant women. Two, abortion is the most safe and efficient way to resolve this issue after pregnancy has occurred. And three, there is not a morally relevant victim on the receiving end of the act, which is obviously going to be probably the most contentious part. So I guess like that would be my opening thoughts.
Okay, you want to concede the rest of that time because you're only at 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's chill.
Okay,
That's
great.
fine.
All right. So, pardon me because I'm multitasking here. Let me get everything in place. All right. So let me bring up mine. I have a pretty short opener, but I'm gonna put the clock up just to be fair. Bring up where are we at here? Okay. All right. So here we go. So every my stance is for this debate. Every biologist studying any species identifies the organism as that species from the conception forward. Denying that the fetus is human requires rejecting the most basic categories of developmental biology. This matters because history of atrocity runs through exactly this era. The decision that some members of the human species do not qualify for legal protection. This structural move is not new. Every time a civilization has decided that some humans count and others do not, by whatever arbitrary criteria they establish, the application turns out to be catastrophic. And the people doing the classifying eventually end up being classified themselves in a lot of ways. The abortion debate is not really unique. It's a very old argument, just in new clothes. It's the same burger with a different bun. So my opponent here probably is going to go through a few different arguments. We particularly already said body autonomy, maybe sentience. We might talk about viability, about suffering of unwanted children. These are real topics we can go over, but in my opinion, every single one of them is downstream of a real question that really a lot of people don't want to face. Does a genetically distinct human organism have an intrinsic right to not be killed? That is what this debate is really about, not the feelings around it, not the difficult cases, just that question. Because if the answer is yes, and I aim to show that it is, then everything else follows. The Soviet Union actually ran this experiment in 1920. They got their answer by 1936, when they reversed the policy because the population was collapsing. We are currently at 1.6 birth rates per woman in this country. The answer is not complicated. Some people just decide not to look at it. And so with that, I came out about 2 minutes as well. You can see the rest of my time. So let me restart this. I'll start the timer here. And yeah, we can kind of do open floor now. So my my statement there.
Just a quick question before you make a statement, if you don't mind. Not about your position, just about like the debate. Like, am I allowed to like swear? Like, what's the kind of conduct here? Like, am I allowed to use extreme hypotheticals that involve maybe some very immoral actions, or is that like avoidable?
That's fine, just as long as it's like TOS. I would ask, right? Because we're streaming. So
okay,
keep away from like extreme racial slurs and things like that.
Nothing like that.
Cursing's fine. This is not flagged for children, so you're good. But so yeah, I guess my main, and you do have the affirmative, so typically it's my job to kind of like try to poke holes in it and discuss in debate format. So in the Soviet Union, they legalized abortion in 1920. By the early 1930s, abortions outnumbered live births in the major urban areas, right? The government banned abortion in 1936 because the demographic collapse was threatening the survival of the state. They re-legalized it in 1955, and through the 1960s and 1980s, abortion to birth ratios ran 2 to 1 and then to 4 to 1. So the United States is currently at 1.6 fertility rate, below the 2.1 replacement rate. The country is not self-sustaining in its current birth rates. So in my opinion, the prompt is in a way self-refuting, because how can you have a net positive for a society if the very thing that you're advocating for is a net negative of the actual society itself? So how do you make sense of this?
Sure. So, I mean, so a couple of things. I will address that directly. I will say that, like, obviously, like the main thing that I will defend just generally is just that it's morally permissible, which is kind of like what I was saying in the Discord chat when we were originally setting it up. The whole wording of like net good for society. I mean, the reasons why I think it's a net good are kind of, like the three reasons I listed in my opening statements. I think would be an example to respond to birth rates. I mean, like, look, I mean, we could say that maybe you do think that we're under some kind of obligation to, like, maintain like an above replacement birth rate. It seems to be the case that maintaining an above a replacement birth rate is quite difficult. Even if we were to completely ban abortion, I don't really
Well,
think we have
no,
good
I
reason
don't
to.
think. Hold on, I don't think it's difficult. Roe v. Wade, you can check out the stats when that came into play in the 70s, and the 5 years leading up to it, it was starting to decline, and it's only ticked down since then. There's been other cases in different parts of the world where abortion is directly tied to birth rates. I mean, it's kind of like
Oh yeah, I'm sure
self-evident.
it plays a part. Yeah, I definitely won't deny that it plays a part. But I think that,
Okay.
that there's two factors to consider, right? So one of them would be I would have to pick up the specific methodology, but there was a John Hopkins study that actually tried to examine the effects of a US state where abortion was banned versus one where it wasn't. And they found that actually just because an abortion happens, that doesn't necessarily convert into a live birth, because there could be all sorts of other
Mm.
cases where, for example, someone could either one go to a place where abortion is
Well,
legal
wait,
in the
but
west
hold
in
on.
Western. Sorry, go
You're
ahead. Yeah.
you're using the example case study of one state versus a country. Like how is that analogous to really? You really can't, because we can pick and choose our statistics to paint the picture of whatever we want. But when you look at it from historically speaking, it is tied directly to the birth rate. I mean, you can look at like Japan, for instance. Japan is a great case for this. I mean, we see this all over the place. So I don't see how you can separate the two in any logical way.
Well, it's hard to know because obviously, as we both know, right, correlation doesn't equal causation. So sometimes it's quite difficult to draw causal relationships between. Like, it's very easy to just say, "Oh, look, well, here is a place that allows abortions, and then the birth rates went down." But I mean, what this study tries to do is actually examine a causal relationship. And what I'm trying to tell you is that, like, the first of all, even if I were to grant it to you that abortions did lower birth rates, that's not necessarily a problem for my view. But I'm still taking issue with the claim that it
Well, it
necessarily
is a
does.
problem for your worldview if it's a net positive for society. Because
Well,
how and I don't like just look. I don't understand this, right? Like, how can you say that when you have abortions, like a 4-to-1 abortion rate, how can you possibly claim that that is not contributing to birth rates? It's it's
well,
self-evident.
because yeah, sure. Well, I don't think it's self-evident because one, I mean, just because
How?
someone has an abortion, well, sure, just because someone has an abortion, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't have another child later in their life. Second of all,
But they would still be
if
a
you
net
know.
negative if they
Mhm.
if they abort one child and they have two. That means they would have had three.
Well, not necessarily, because if they had one child because abortion is banned, then they might just decide not to have any more in the future.
Why would? But we're not talking about individual decisions here. We're talking about a country and statistics of the populace. How does that make any
Yeah,
like?
I get that, but what I'm saying is that you're saying that the math must work out so that if what I'm saying is true, then she would have more children. But what I'm saying is that if she decides, maybe like she decides, hey, I don't want a child right now, so I'm going to have an abortion. But maybe later in my life I would like to have a child. Then she aborts, and then later in her life she has a child. If she's forced to not have an abortion, then it might be the case that she'll have that child now, assuming that, like, she doesn't fly somewhere where abortion is legal, or she doesn't have like an illegal abortion. Sorry, or, like a coat hanger, whatever, or whatever. Like, assuming all of that is the case, like she might just have the child now, sure, but then she might decide against the decision later. I have no reason to assume that she would want another child later after she has one now.
Okay,
Um,
so the historic cases we have, like in the Soviet Union, there was one in Romania that happened as well, where they took
mhm.
action to actually restrict abortions, and their birth rate just skyrocketed. So are you saying that that was just coincidence?
I don't know. I would have to look at the causal relationships. It could be
You
the
have like,
case. It could be the case that there are other factors, right? I mean, for example, if you take the UK, the average woman actually does want to have 2 or 3 children, which is above replacement. So the fact that the average woman isn't having 2 or 3 children, clearly the reasons for her having an abortion is not just because they don't want children. It's because one, it's either the wrong time of their life, or two, because there's some type of financial instability, which is one of the leading reasons which is listed as to why people often do get abortions. So,
Okay, so let me try to, I guess, olive branch this then, right? Let's say it's not as the extreme degree. Let's just say it's some lower percentage. Will you grant at least there's a definite number that it moves the needle in the population of birth rates?
probably, yeah.
Okay, so
In the same way
even if it's
contraception
not
does.
in the same, okay. Well, that was another thing that was in Romania. They actually went as far as to restrict contraception because they were
Yeah.
their society was collapsing.
Do you think we should do that?
Contraception, my opinion, no. Because here's the
Even if it
situation.
reduces birth rates?
Well, not because I don't think we should ban something like that, because that's not my argument. My argument is the intrinsic life that is being deleted, right? That's
Well,
my
okay. Well, if
stance.
that's the case, then this birth rate argument is just completely irrelevant. Then.
Well, no, it's not irrelevant, because one is more effective at removing people from society than the other one. Just because some people have contraception, the contraceptions actually fail all the time, so it wouldn't follow.
Well, I have no reason to assume that banning abortion would increase the birth rates any more than banning contraception would.
You just conceded that it did.
No, wait. I'm saying, I'm saying it might, but I'm saying that banning contraception seemingly would increase the birth rates just as much, if not more.
No,
right?
not
so
not.
What?
No, not much.
You
I
just
would
said
not go as far.
Romania banned it to do that for that very reason. Why would Romania ban contraception?
They also, but hold on, they banned abortions and they restricted contraceptions. I didn't say they banned it. I used a restriction.
Maybe not banned. But,
okay, so let's use it the exact wording here. Don't misquote me.
That's fine. I don't think the exact wording is super relevant though, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you're just saying that like abortion. You're saying in your worldview, right? Abortion. Let's just say it's the case that abortion reduces birth rates. Well, it's also the case that contraception, at least to some extent, reduces birth rates as well. And whether or not it's just as much as abortion, I think, is an empirical question. And unless you have a study on it, I have no reason to assume one way or the other.
You know, okay, fine. For the sake of argument, let's say, yeah, I want to ban contraceptions. What now?
Okay, well, I'm just wondering how far you take this to go. I mean, let's say there was a society where women didn't want to have children, and you banned contraception, and it still didn't work. Let's just say this is the case. And let's just say the only way to increase birth rates was to like set up like rape camps where we just kidnap women and we just do horrible things to them and force pregnancies upon them. Now, to me, it's stipulated in the hypothetical, right? This is the only way to increase the birth rates. But to me, this is just like morally corrupt. Like I wouldn't take this to be okay.
So you're saying that if we have these baby breeding camps, that would be, if that's the only way to do it, that would be, are you saying that you're asking if I would advocate for that?
Yeah, would you say if it's the only way? Like you would say we should just force women to have sex with people?
To be fair though, like don't you think this is disanalogous to the current topic?
Well, no, because the topic of whether or not abortion is moral because the fetus is a human that's valuable or whatever, that's a separate question to the birth rates. You might think that I've already
proven that the abortion is a problem for birth rates, and in turn is a problem for society. And you conceded that even some of even if you give me a small margin of the overall
that's fine,
numbers
but
that
then I have to also concede that contraception and rape camps are also a net negative, not having those as well, which I like. I mean, look, that might be the case, but I don't view net positive as a society as just like whether or not we have more birth rates. I don't view that as the only metric to how a society is net positive.
So in your worldview, you're only willing to let go of abortions if we can have rape camps?
Wait, what? Why would I'm not the one advocating for rape camps?
Well, I think you propose it. No, you're proposing that as an option. You're saying, well, let's get the moral the optimal moral good.
No, I don't think we're under an obligation to reproduce. No, I think if the human race wants to naturally die out or whatever, like, look, I mean, like that could be that might be unpreferable, but I don't think that we can resort to immoral means to coerce people to force
you're just
pregnancies.
You're just kind of a full antinatalist.
No, I'm not an antinatalist because I don't believe that I don't believe that being born is worse than like not being born at all, which is what an antinatalist believes.
Okay. Well, but I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you want that? Like, if people just want it, why would they? Why under your paradigm wouldn't that be
Well,
okay? You just said you don't care if the human race goes extinct, so why wouldn't you
that
want to
doesn't
be?
mean that I think that it should go extinct. It's just more that it's just that I care more about the
So
people
there's a
that exist
moral
now than the people that
reason.
don't.
So should is moral language. So you have an ought of the human race continuing. Then correct?
Um, well, wait, hold on. I didn't say that the human race should continue. I just said the human race
You just
should
said should.
flourish. Huh? No, I didn't say it should continue.
So it shouldn't continue.
Well, I'm indifferent. I wouldn't make a normative claim there.
Okay. Because look, when we talk about like birth rates, there's other things that are imperative for having a good birth rate. You can look at, I mean, how do you care? I mean, do you care about social safety nets of any kind, or social security, or you know, welfare? Do you care about any of that? Because modern welfare states
Yeah,
are
I think
okay.
that
So
stuff's
then,
probably quite good.
well then, okay, modern welfare states are actual, pyramid systems, right? The Social Security, Medicare, pension systems, pay-as-you-go structures, current workers fund current retirees. The math only holds if the specific ratio of the workers are workers to dependents. When birth rates fall, the pyramid inverts. Fewer workers support more retirees, and the
Yeah,
system
I
goes
agree.
insolent.
Listen, I agree. Like, if we have low birth rates, I mean, look, if we have low birth rates, then there are ways that people currently now can suffer. But that doesn't mean that I'm okay with resorting to what I would consider immoral means to get there, right?
Moral
So,
means.
like,
Well,
yeah,
let's talk
like
about.
rape
Well,
camps.
let's.
I'm
Okay,
not
it's
okay with
fine.
rape camps.
Let's talk about. Let's talk
But
about
can I just get
morality.
real quick before we talk about morality? Can I just get a clear answer on that? Like, are you committing to a yes or a no that if the only way to continue the human race was to like take women off the street and force them into rape camps, you're saying we should do that? Just to be clear, that is what your position
No,
is.
but see, here's where I have the advantage here. Under my paradigm, Christian paradigm, no, that would be immoral. So I would say no. But it's also immoral to murder babies. So I can have both
Okay,
in my paradigm.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. But then it's just that when you invoke, when you invoke like birth rates as some type of deontic rule, like it doesn't seem like that's actually what matters, and it seems like there are other relevant moral factors. So it just
Well, we
seems
can.
like to me a
Well,
complete
I was
deviation
keeping it.
from
I
the
was
topic.
keeping it more of towards just the numbers, but you want to go down the moral. We could go down the moral a little bit more, but
Well, net good is
actually,
obviously a moral question.
so let's talk about let me ask you something. So putting fetuses aside, um, for a moment, what makes killing wrong? What is the not legal, just wrong? When we say killing a person is a moral atrocity,
Mhm.
what is it? What is it that makes this so?
So I think it would be wrong because you would be depriving somebody who is a person of their future experiences without their consent or without any sort of like foreseeable so on, so on. Right? That would basically broadly be what I'd say.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean that's why you hear language like when they talk about older ones, passing, but it's not as tragic as like a young person, like right,
Yeah, yeah,
like because and we hear
yeah,
that language all the time.
yeah.
So if we go down that logical train of thought, right? A fetus.
Mhm.
Let's go take it to the fetus. A fetus has the same future. It's a future kind of like ours, right? Same kind of experiences, relationships,
So
projects, a whole life ahead of them. So when an abortion is performed, the future is eliminated. By the exact same logic, what makes killing an adult wrong, killing a fetus is also wrong.
yeah,
The
so
moral weight does not depend on whether, the fetus is currently conscious. It depends on what's being taken, that future. So how do you deal with this?
I mean, yeah, I mean, for me, the answer is quite clear. I mean, like, look, I mean, when we're talking about flow and like the future like ours argument, which was put forward by Don Marquise, like
Mm.
this argument, the reason why it doesn't work super well, in my opinion, is because I believe that there is something ontologically different that I would describe as like meaningfully different when a mind is present. So a fetus at like 5 weeks or whatever, like it does not have a conscious experience or a mind. Okay. And then at around 24 weeks, once the necessary parts of the brain develop, we can say that, like, look, there is probably some type of experience occurring here. There's some type of mind which is similar to ours. And I think that the invocation of flow, I'm fine with you using flow, but I would only care about flow when we're talking about beings. Like, for example, you said we would be depriving them of a future like ours when referring to the fetus. But I just reject the fact that the fetus is a them. I think the fetus is an it, which I'm sorry if that sounds a bit offensive to some people. It might sound a bit dehumanizing, but I mean that more in just the categorical sense. Like when I use pronouns, I'm referring to people. And
so wait a minute. Wait, in basic biology, of any species, it's the classification starts at conception. So you're not even on good grounds here. So I don't understand how that makes any sense. If you say,
I didn't say human life, did I? I said personhood.
And okay, so personhood. So you're saying that you are not attributing personhood to a fetus, even though untouched their future would be like ours. You're saying that.
I don't know what you mean by they. I mean, like, that there is a biological organism that will eventually embody the they that you're speaking of. And then once that comes into play, I think there is someone to consider. But until that is the case.
And when does that happen?
Around 24 weeks.
24 weeks? Why not 25 weeks? Why not 23 weeks?
Well, because, I mean, in some cases it might be 25 weeks, and in some cases it might be 23 weeks, which is why I would probably draw the legal line.
Who decides that?
Well, the same science that you're using to determine life starts at conception is the same science that tells us that consciousness starts around.
I'm using basic biology because here's the thing. Like,
yeah, so am I. I'm also using basic biology.
Well, no, you're not, because then you're disagreeing with the classification of a species.
But do you know what the thalamocortical connections in the brain are?
Why don't you explain to me? Spoon feed it to me.
Sure.
It sounds like your stance is based on it to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I mean, it seems to be the case that, unless you think consciousness is just like everywhere, maybe you hold this some like panpsychist view or something, but it seems to be the case that, like, consciousness is something that emerges from the brain. And, we have to ask ourselves, like, where does it come from? And the scientific consensus is that consciousness can only really emerge after these thalamocortical connections in the brain take place. And what I mean by thalamocortical connections, I mean that there is a part of your brain which is called the thalamus, which is an essential part of your brain's like relay system, which links up to the cerebral cortex to process sensory information, right? So this is the scientific consensus right now, is that this is like necessary for consciousness. So like sometimes this might develop at 23 weeks, 24 weeks, 25 weeks, because every human is developmentally different. But what we know for sure is that this shit is not occurring at like 3 weeks when there is like no brain. Right.
That to me makes you make a compelling case for dolphin rights. That's what it sounds like.
That's right. I mean, I do think it is morally wrong to kill dolphins as well.
So you would rate a dolphin over a human fetus in importance?
Not necessarily, but I mean,
well,
look,
based on your wait a minute. Based on what you just described, you would have to, or unless you're going to contradict yourself.
Well, there wouldn't be a contradiction because I hold to a psychological continuity account. So that wouldn't be contradictory, because what I'm saying is that a fetus has a sort of, once it has an established mind, it has a foreseeable psychological unbroken link between its current state and what we would consider like, an adult human with a higher order of rational thought or whatever. So there is this kind of unbroken link here. So that is why generally I would consider persons that are of the humankind to be more valuable. But they do have to be persons with a mind, because if they're pre-persons, then I don't think that the protection of such an entity would be would kind of trump the bodily autonomy rights. Now real quick, before you quiz me on that, do you deny the fact that animals have some type of moral value? Because if you want to say that human life is what matters, I'm sure you would agree that if I were to like torture a dog or like kick my dog for fun, that would be unethical.
No, I would not. I would not disagree that animals have some sort of moral worth, but they are not comparable to a human, and they're not comparable to the moral worth of a human. I don't see any way you can make that argument.
Well, sure. I mean, like, look, I mean, it does seem to be the case that even if you accept that humans are more valuable, which I generally do as well, like, you have to at least accept that there is something about these animals that makes them meaningfully different from like rocks and plants. And to me, it's just obvious that that's consciousness. I don't know what other line you would be drawing. Like, why do you care about dogs and cats? but not dolphins, but then also not plants, but then fetuses.
I mean, we can go down every specific animal species, and I can tell you which one I care for more than the other. That I don't see how that has anything to do with the moral worth of a human.
I'm just trying to figure out how arbitrary it is. Like, do you care about like a dog more than a cat, for example? I mean, they both seem to be having fairly similar experiences.
Let's say I like them both equally. What does that matter to the debate?
Well, it shows to me that you do value consciousness, and that's relevant.
I value human life, especially, and also you haven't really like
animal life too.
You haven't really, yeah, but okay, who cares? I like ice cream too. It doesn't matter to the debate. Like it has nothing to do with the stance that in the intrinsic value of a human life that starts at conception is going to become a human as long as someone doesn't come in and terminate it. So
wait, you said it's going to become a human? I thought you said it already was.
It's going to become a adult human.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, that's true. But I mean, ultimately, like, look, I mean, like, if you take like the Plan B pill, right, which is before conception, like that also has a very high likelihood of causing conception and eventually, combining biologically to then lead to a whatever. But ultimately, I don't think that taking the Plan B pill is bad, because it sounds to me like, I guess, like what I'm trying to figure out is human life valuable to you because it's human life, or is it valuable to you because it has the potential to develop into an experience? Because I'm trying to figure out which one you actually care about.
It's valuable to me because I give intrinsic value to human life, and that starts at conception.
So okay, so like, if I were to present to you,
hold on, let's go back to you basically made a claim that there was no continuity from the fetus to adult. Was that your claim?
Well, there is continuity after consciousness, but the continuity that I'm talking about is psychological continuity. There's no psychological continuity from like a zygote to a...
So consciousness, like what exactly, when do you think that starts? Is that where you placed your metric for abortion?
Yeah, I'd say around 24 weeks. Now, the question of whether or not abortion is okay after consciousness, I'm a bit agnostic on, because I think that there are still some good arguments for bodily autonomy, but I would at least agree with you that, like, look, we are dealing with a baby that's like morally relevant now. So I would be very hesitant. But before that point, I don't care.
So the continuity between one state in a human life to another state, are you saying that comes with different moral worth from one to the other?
Wait, sorry, repeat the question.
Are you saying that the state of a human life, continuity between one state to another, dictates moral worth to some degree?
Yeah, I think there's something new coming into existence. In the same way that when the sperm combines with the egg, you think conception creates something new. I think that when the thalamocortical connections in the brain occur, that something new has occurred. I draw a different ontological distinction.
So then, if you take that, if that is your stance on that, then would you hold that people later, because their brain hasn't developed fully, can't be held responsible for their actions?
Wait, people that develop later? What do you mean?
So let's say a 18-year-old to a 28-year-old brain development wise, there's still brain developing happening there. Are you, under that logic, would they still be able to be held accountable for their actions from when they were younger?
Held accountable for their actions? I mean, like, I think, so you're asking me, I'd need to like work with a working example. So you're saying that if there's like an 18-year-old that like steals from a shop, you're saying, are they still responsible for that when they're like 28?
Yeah, or something like that, sure.
I mean, it is the case that people can grow past their responsibilities. And I mean, I think at the time they're responsible and they should, they should obviously face whatever repercussions it is. But if it's the case that like they've matured since then, they've grown, they've kind of learned their lesson, then I'm not really sure what the word responsibility is doing.
What about murder?
Yeah, well, if someone's murdering, then you probably have good reason to believe that this person is of an unwell psychological state, such that they should probably be locked away, because the risk of keeping them out would be too high. Like, you have good foreseeable reason to infer that they would probably kill someone again. And if you could read their mind and they were like genuinely just chill, like you and me, then I guess you don't really need to lock them away. But I don't think it's worth the risk. Do you?
No, I'm asking from your worldview because I'm trying to understand like how you place this worth on from one end to the other based on just some sort of
Well, that has nothing to
continuity.
do with like the moral value of life. You're just asking me like, to what extent is
Well, no,
someone
it's testing
responsible
your
for an
it's testing
action?
your it's testing your logic on development.
Well, my logic on development's been consistent insofar as what I believe matters is personhood. And that's when there's an established conscious experience. An 18-year-old with an underdeveloped, or like, like let's say you have like a 10-year-old child, right? Like they're clearly having some type of valuable experience. Like their brain might not be like fully developed, frontal lobe until you're 25 and all that shit. But like, look, I mean, they're clearly having an experience that's valuable. So that's good enough for me to say it's wrong to kill them, especially when you have the foreseeable foresight of their whole life. I mean, this plays into the intuition that you said earlier, right? Like the fact that it's more sad that an old man dies than a child. I mean, they're both innocent human lives in your worldview, but the fact that you feel worse about one over the other shows that you also value some type of trajectory of someone's life. So
Well,
I would just put
you would be
speak to it at the
living
same
under
time.
my paradigm of the future, like a future that you're robbing them of, but you don't seem to you seem
No, I
to
do care about
stop.
that, but only once they have an
No.
experience. Once they have
Well,
that
okay,
first experience.
yeah, but that doesn't make any fucking sense because
Why
if
not?
because if it's a human life and you don't mess with it and it becomes a human, it's still and it becomes an adult human, it's still going to have a future with experiences and stuff that you're robbing them of. So I don't
Well,
understand. I don't see how you escape this logically.
Well, because the it you're referring to that's going to have experiences is the brain, and there is no brain yet. So I don't know what you mean by it's going to have future experiences. What you mean is that the biological organism is developing such that it will eventually develop a brain that will then have the experiences. That's true, but it hasn't reached that point yet. It would be like if I said to you, like, like if I'm like making love to a woman, right, and like we finish the act, and
Mhm.
that conception hasn't happened yet, but like she has the option to take the plan B pill. Under your worldview, no conception has happened, so there's no like innocent, beautiful baby life or whatever. But like under your previous logic, like this would still be uh, impermissible to take the pill because it's foreseeable, right? That if the biological kind of process continues naturally, then I mean, there's a very high likelihood that the sperm and the egg will meet, and then the conception will occur, and then this person that we're
I'm
talking
not
about
following.
valuing.
Can you kind of clean that up? So you're saying that if two people are having sex and they take a plan B, can you expand on that? I'm not really following your
Yeah,
logic here.
I'm just saying that like look, like this, if a sperm is about to hit an egg, that's a high
Hmm.
likelihood of potential. And similarly, if a fetus is conceived, that's also a high likelihood of potential. I'm not seeing why your arbitrary line of saying, well, look, it's conception now, why this matters
Well,
to
no,
me.
my line my line isn't like some like the sperm is about to hit the egg. My line is conception when the egg is fertilized and there's a specific genetic DNA that has happened between the two parties. Like that is a new life. That is a new human life. That's
Yeah,
my
I
line.
already agree with you on that, but and I agree that that's a
Well, then I don't
really
know what
good
we're
line to
debating.
draw. Wait, that's a really good line to draw if we're having a science class and we want to know like what a human organism is. But it's not a good moral line to draw if what you're criticizing me for is the potential, right? Because you're saying that under my view, if what I care about is like future experiences, then surely I
Yeah,
should care about this fetus that will have an experience. But I mean, the
yeah.
sperm and the egg are also going to have that experience under the same token
No,
if I let
no,
the
they're not.
sperm reach
No,
the egg.
because you don't have because when a sperm and an egg are parts of something, it's not an entity yet. When you have the entity that has been created, then it is a human life. Like because
Yeah,
under
they're parts that have
because under
to
that no because
function.
under
Yeah.
that logic, every healthy male produces like what 1,500 sperms per second, so you would have to say that every male and boy that goes through puberty is responsible for a genocide that makes the 20th century look like a rounding error. Okay, and every boy that
Well,
went through
hold on.
puberty,
I'm not saying that it's
and
genocide because I don't
every
think it's
boy
valuable.
who goes through this owes society an apology. This is a retarded argument, man. Come on.
Well, that's obviously not what I'm thinking, right? Because I'm not the one that thinks that it's valuable at this point. So I don't know why you would be bringing up something like
I didn't claim the sperm and the egg have intrinsic value yet. I'm saying that they
neither one
together.
Of us did. So I don't know why you're talking about genocide in the bull sack. I don't know why this is being brought up.
You said an egg and you said a sperm and an egg, and they're not together yet, and they're separate. I never made that claim.
It is the case that two separate, the sperm and the egg contain the genetic information to conceive, right? So the potential that these two things combine is very much in existence after insemination, right? No. That potential is very, very real. And if you take a Plan B pill, you will interrupt that potential. This is a natural biological process that you would be interrupting with a high likelihood of potential. And what I'm saying is that with a fetus, you similarly, sure, you might have a life. I agree that that's distinct, but it's not distinct enough for me to draw the moral distinction when it comes to potentiality, because it seems like in both cases we have potentiality.
Why?
Well, because in both cases we have potentiality. I don't know what's different about this potentiality.
We don't have
potentiality.
You don't have potentiality until the fertilization happens.
Yeah, but I only care about potentiality once something valuable has been established.
Great. So then a human life is valuable. Thank you.
But I don't think that's the case, obviously. That's in question. That's the point of the debate. I don't think that's valuable.
You just said that you don't control. So okay. So do you consider human life valuable or not? Because that's my only point. And be established
as like an absolute statement. No. Okay. Obviously
Why
not. I mean, do you? I mean, like, if there's someone in a coma and they're never going to wake up ever again, like they're in a permanent vegetative state.
Well, that's actually a great analogy. That's a great hypothetical, actually, to explore, because under your worldview, if they don't have the right brain activity, it seems like there's nothing stopping you from just going in and just offing them right there where they like.
Well, that's fine. Listen, I'm more than happy to address that, but I want you to address this point first, right? Because under your worldview, you're saying that human life is always valuable. So under your worldview, it's never okay to pull the plug on brain dead patients. So how do you explain that?
There's a difference between, so you're conflating two things here, right? Because this goes into the whole violinist retarded argument, right?
Yeah, I don't like that argument. I agree, it's retarded.
Yeah, it's you're a passive pulling of the plug is not the intent to kill the person. When you do an abortion,
I think that's retarded.
Hold on, wait, hold on. The act of going into abortion, if they don't kill the baby, then it's a failed abortion. So the intent matters here. If you're pulling the plug on someone, and you're letting nature take its course, that is a completely different scenario than going and murdering a baby. That's the difference. So it's disanalogous from the start.
Yeah, so I don't agree with that, because I take inaction to be a type of action. So for example, if I'm walking past a river and I see a child drowning and it would be very easy for me to reach in and pull them out, I don't think that me letting them drown there is just letting nature take its course. I think I'm doing something wrong, because I have a foreseeable way to help them without causing any significant harm to myself.
Once again, you're looking at that situation. That's a completely different scenario. The passiveness.
The same.
No, it's not, because it's disanalogous, because you see that a child is dying and you can help them. So you're choosing not to. And the intent there is, well, I don't want to be bothered. I'm going to walk away and let this child die. The intent of pulling a plug isn't necessarily that you want to kill them. Because here's the thing. If you pull the plug on someone and then they recover, it's a success, right?
Yeah, right? Sure, but the fact that
great.
I agree with that. That's fine. But then the problem with your worldview, right, is that ultimately we know that pulling the plug on them is going to kill them, or at the very least, it has a very high likelihood of doing that. So for you to pull the plug,
wait. Do you know? That's negligence. Do you know though? The child's gonna.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't. Okay. So you don't know. So, but if they live, great.
Wait, so just to get an idea of your worldview, you're saying that if I walked into a hospital right now and I saw someone that was like looking around and talking to their family, right? Maybe they have a very terminal illness, they're literally awake. They're not even unconscious. They're awake. You're telling me that it's okay for me to pull the life support, or at least for the doctors to do so, even if they're dependent on the life support. You're saying that's not death because they're just pulling the plug and let's just hope that they don't die.
I don't know why you would go into a random hospital and start pulling plugs. I mean,
I
without
agree.
any.
That it would be bad, right? Because that would be
Yeah,
murder. Because I'd be pulling the plugs on people dependent on it. But under your
but that's a
worldview,
completely
for some
different
reason,
scenario.
no, it's
You're talking
exactly the same if you hold to the
No,
human
because
life view.
someone is actively awake and they're just sitting there and they're on like an oxygen machine, right? And you go
Yeah.
in there and pull the plug. Like, how is that comparative
it's
to
okay if
someone
they're
who's in
asleep.
coma and we don't know if they're gonna live or not?
Well, we don't know if the person that's on the well, hold on, wait. When you say
But
live
what?
or not, we do
But what?
know that they're living because they're on life support. They're alive.
Okay,
They're,
so
they're a human life.
what is the motivation to walk into this person who's sitting up talking and pull the plug? What is the reason?
Maybe like let's just say that like they have reason to believe that like or maybe they'll live, but there's a high likelihood that they'll die, but we just don't want to keep supporting them now because they're dependent on our equipment, and it would be a miracle if they survive. I hope they do, but we just don't want to keep supporting them because
And
it's a drain on hospital equipment.
who would decide to do that or not?
The doctor.
Looks like Count Emmett is in the no, Emmett, it was today, unfortunately. Welcome to the chat, bud. If you want to get in, you can still mod. I'm in the Discord.
Yeah, I mean,
because we're at 37 minutes in.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, look, so it seems to me I don't understand in your worldview genuinely what the symmetry breaker is, because it sounds like the only meaningful difference as to why it's okay to pull the plug on one and not the other is because one of them's awake.
I'm not making a case for pulling a plug on any of these people, because that would be a decision between the doctor and the family and whether to pull a plug in a real situation. When I pose the question to you, we're talking about what exactly is the line between it's morally okay to kill someone when it's not. And it seems in a lot of abortion debates, it's going through the magic portal of the vagina apparently is the deciding factor. Or it's like a location.
Not for me.
Okay, well,
not for me, I think.
And also your argument of I guess if they are sentient or not, I mean, that's also hard to prove too. Because, I mean, how do you know for sure that they don't have sentience? How do you know they don't have conscious thoughts? Consciousness is a really fucking hard thing to
Well, that's
determine.
an excellent question. I mean, that's part of the reason why I don't think it generally that we should be killing people in comas. But I think that if you have someone that's genuinely in a vegetative state where we can scan their brain and we can see that certain essential parts of the brain are damaged or they're no longer displaying like signals besides maybe the lower brainstem, then I think we have very good reason to infer that this person isn't having any experience. But there are people that have been in comas with very low levels of experiences through their thalamus and through their cerebral cortex or whatever that have reported having dreamlike states. So that would be one reason why I'd say there's a difference between someone in a coma versus someone in like
about fetal. I'm talking about babies. Like, how do you know that they're not conscious?
Well, they don't have brains. With the necessary connections. So,
well, they have brains. You're saying they don't have the connections.
Well, they don't have brains from conception, do they? And you're against it from conception.
No.
So
we're testing your worldview, not mine on this, because my claim isn't about having some arbitrary number to delete them. We know what mine
yours is
says.
Conception.
Yes,
which I take
consistent.
To be arbitrary.
No, how is it arbitrary when you have a defined point when it happens?
Yeah, well, my defined point is when the thalamocortical connections. That's equally as biologically factual. I don't really understand why
your entire premise is that you know they have consciousness or not. And I'm asking you, how do you know that?
Well, we infer it from the fact that they have the necessary brain connections.
Okay, so it's guessing then.
Well, it's okay to guess. Yeah,
it is?
Fine.
No, I don't think it's okay to guess when it comes to murdering babies. No.
Well, it's a good thing that I'm making an educated guess, right? Because what I'm saying is that, look, I'm saying if they have the necessary parts... Wait, listen. Because you're acting like I'm taking a risk of killing a conscious baby, but I'm not doing that. I'm saying that once the conscious connections are in place, either it is the case
you're
that
not taking a risk, you're murdering babies.
That's up for discussion, but... That's what
we've established thus far.
Well, I don't agree it's murder because that's an unjustified killing, and I obviously think that this is fine in my worldview. So that's not really a problem.
Okay, but, so how is this justified then? Let's go down that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let me just tie the knot on this point. I don't mind you asking me anything you like, but just to tie the knot on this point, look, I mean, you're saying that like, oh, it's just a guess, but what I'm saying is that we know what parts of the brain, we have a consensus on what parts of the brain are necessary for conscious experience. We know what happens to adults' conscious experiences when these parts of the brain are damaged. We can do brain scans, we can see how it processes the senses, blah 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 blah, right? So what I'm saying is that once these parts of the brain connect, then we can say, look, there's a good chance they're having an experience. And if they're not having an experience, that's fine. We're not going to kill them anyway because they might be having one. So we're going to play it safe. We're actually going to err on the side of caution because I don't want to kill babies, right? But before these parts of the brain come into play, then we're just dealing with, which I know triggers the fuck out of pro-lifers, but we're dealing with a clump of cells. We're dealing with something which is alive and it is a human organism.
Well, no, biology would disagree with you. It's not a clump of cells. It is the classification of a species starts at conception, so it is a human life. So you're going to get agree some basic biology. You could say it's a clump of cells, but that doesn't account for the whole of what has been created. And also that doesn't account for the future. It feels like
you're trying to pigeonhole me into it's not human life to compare with your talking points. But I already agree it's human life.
Okay, so you say it's a human life, but in one breath, and in another breath, you're saying, but it's okay to kill it based on these arbitrary things that we're taking an educated guess that we're taking an educated guess that they don't have consciousness. And
well, they don't have consciousness before that point.
Well, you just admitted that it's an educated guess. You don't know, and you admitted that. But let's just bring Emmett to the stage. That's not what I admitted, Emmett, welcome, sir.
What's up, Emmett?
Hello, Emmett.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Welcome.
Well, I heard that you were already going through the whole motion of the debate, so I'm just here in case I hear anything weird. I would just try to intervene. Otherwise, continue. You were doing great.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
No
We're no worries. Thanks for being here. We're at 43 minutes, and I'm trying to keep a timer on it. We've had opening statements, and we're just kind of in the back and forth now.
Yeah. 43 minutes out of an hour?
Yes.
Okay.
So real quick, just to make sure that my position isn't confused, I'm saying that when the parts of the brain for consciousness develop, then we are making the educated guess that an experience might be occurring because we know that this is what's necessary for experience. So it could be the case that maybe they're not having an experience. I mean, after all, fetuses are very heavily sedated with low oxygen levels in the womb, right? So it could be the case that they're having barely any experience. But I agree that we shouldn't risk killing babies. So I would err on the side of caution and just say, look, they've got the parts in the brain, so we should be careful. But what I'm saying is that before that point, I'm not saying that there is any conscious experience. I don't think there is any conscious experience before that point. And if you want to say that there is, then I mean, you'd have to take some very strange view to say that. Like, okay, maybe
no, you're so hold on. You're saying that you've got these stages, and one is you're erring on your side of caution.
Yeah.
But you also admitted that you don't actually know. It's an educated guess. And so if you're going to err on the side of caution, why not just have a actual stance of conception being a human life and go from there?
I agree it's a human life, but the reason why I wouldn't draw it there is because, one, we have a harm that's happening to the mother, right, who's experiencing a bodily autonomy violation. So I think that's serious, and that requires moral consideration. And then the question is that does the right of the fetus's life trump that bodily autonomy violation? And I would say no, because it's a human life, but because it's never had any experience and it's very, very underdeveloped in that sense, I would say no. I think in this instance, bodily autonomy definitely does trump it. So that would be the main thing, yeah.
So what is it about
body
autonomy? Okay, so the mother's bodily autonomy. So
where exactly it matters? Yeah,
it matters. Okay, so why does it matter when it comes to terminating a human life?
Well, because if we agree, which I know we don't, but if we did agree that the life in question was not morally valuable, then it just follows, right, that you would, unless you disagree with what I said in my opening statement. Like, do you agree that if I have a small metal object in my leg, that I don't want there, that might cause me physical or psychological health risks, that I should be able to remove it if I wanted to.
It's disanalogous. One is a shard in your
I'm
leg.
not saying it's analogous. I'm trying to figure out
Well,
if you
then
care about
why are
bodily
we
autonomy
even-
at all.
Why are we bringing it up? Like, it's not even comparable.
Well, I think it is comparable because in both
How
cases
so?
we've got a non-conscious entity inside the body that causes health risks. So
What
you're just going to say one is a life, but I just don't care about that distinction. I don't like you haven't motivated me to care about that distinction because my worldview entails that I care about.
Well, we
the
already.
embodied mind,
Well,
so.
I don't know what else. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to convince you because we had a conversation about the future of the human life, and you acknowledge it's a human life, and at the same time it will have a future, but you're also saying you don't care at the same time. So I don't know how you logically live in that worldview.
Well, I don't know why you're questioning the logic. The logic of the worldview is very consistent. These are views that are held by
no, it's not consistent.
Like, well, sure. I mean, there are admired philosophers that hold this view, like Derek.
Oh,
Parfit,
great!
Jeff
There's some philosopher somewhere that Nietzsche was.
I'll elaborate more on the view. I'll elaborate more on the view.
A great
I'm just
guy.
saying that, like. Yeah, I'm just saying that, like, look, there have been books written on this stuff. It's not like I'm just like shitting out my ass here. And I'll happy.
But
to,
I don't care about any of that. Like, I don't care what any person.
I'm happy to elaborate.
I don't care about any book written by somebody who happens to agree with you. I'm caring about the logical reasoning behind saying that this is okay to kill someone.
Sure. Well, so far you haven't pointed out any contradictions in my logic because I've taken the embodied mind account of identity.
You agree that it's a human life. And you, but at the same time, you've also agreed that robbing someone of their future is a moral bad, but it seems to stop when it comes to fetuses for some weird reason.
Sure. So the reason why that logic attempt at finding a contradiction in my logic doesn't work is because you're equivocating. Because when you say, one, we agree that a fetus is a human life. Yes, I agree with that. And then you say, but then you're going to take away their future. Well, I disagree that there is a they to speak of. There is an it, which is like the biological organism or vessel that you're referring to. And I
which
agree
has a
that
future,
has
right?
It has a biological future, sure. But there is no... Yeah, but there is no like mind in question, which is the future I'm interested in looking at, and I'm only interested in looking at that.
You admit it has a biological future.
Yeah, but you only care about its future after conception, right? So let's imagine that when the mind develops, that's a type of conception, okay? So let's call it brain conception, okay? So you think that human life matters because when after conception, that's when human life emerges, and I think that human consciousness matters because that's when brain.
Are we just making up new things now to say that there's a mind conception now? I don't follow.
Oh, okay, well, I'll try and make it simpler. I mean, look, there is clearly something ontologically different about the brain occurring, right? I mean, you agree that we're different from single-cell organisms.
Yeah, and a child is different from an adult. Doesn't mean I can kill it.
I agree. But what we have to find out is, like, what is the meaningful difference between a child, an adult, a baby, a fetus, and a zygote? And what I think that I think that we are more connected by our minds than we are by our organisms. I reject animalism. So when we're talking about the embodied mind account of identity, I'm just saying, look, like, you can spam your science at me all you want, but I'll just spam my science back. It's a biological fact that thalamocortical connections do develop later, and that is where I draw my biological line.
Which is an educated guess, and for all you know,
that's not a guess. That's a fact.
You admitted earlier that it was an educated guess that there's consciousness there. You said you didn't have no way of knowing, or if there's not.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant about whether or not the thalamocortical connections emerge. Sure, the consciousness experience might not be present just yet, but we know that the vessel for the experience has been developed.
But the consciousness is the entire thing you're basing this arbitrary line on.
Yeah, if I could read the mind of the fetus and I knew that post-thalamocortical connections, it didn't have any experience for another week, I'd say that you can extend the time to abort it for a week. But because I can't read minds, like, I can only infer that an experience could be occurring. And because I don't want to risk killing something, like, for example, if I put a cardboard box in front of you and I said there's a 50-50 chance that there's a child inside this box, like, it might be the case there's no child in this box, and if you shot the box and there was no child in there, nothing wrong has occurred, fine. But I still think
so now we're in Schrodinger's abortion areas here. Okay, we're Schrodinger's abortion.
Schrodinger's abortion, and I don't think that you should shoot the box, and I don't think you should risk the abortion once the mind parts are in place. But before they are, that's fine.
Well, not shooting the box would be not aborting at all. So thank you.
Well, not shoot. Well, yeah. If they're having a conscious experience, again, this is really not the gotcha you think it is. I've been crystal clear on my position, and you failed to point it out a contradiction. I mean, look, like
your entire worldview is a contradiction.
Well, okay, well, we're not talking about my entire worldview. We're talking about the moral stance of abortion.
If I may, what can you clarify what a conscious experience is?
Yeah, a conscious experience is just some type of phenomenal state that is a part of a being.
Okay. So once again, you make a great argument for like pigs and dolphins to put them over.
I do, fetuses. And so do you. I mean, listen, like you don't.
No, I don't consider any. No, I don't consider any animal over a human life. You asked me if I consider a morally bad to like torture animals, and I could say yes, but that's not the immoral equivalence of a human life being ended.
Yeah, I already addressed this earlier. I said that, like, if you have a baby, like there is a foreseeable psychological link between this baby's personhood and the personhood of a higher order developed human, right? So it has a longer lifespan, and within that lifespan that we can foresee, it's going to have a whole array of complex social behaviors, language, interconnected relationships, and all of these reasons are why I generally value humans more, because ultimately I can empathize with them more. So that's why.
So we're getting kind of close to the end here. This is getting close to the end here. I do have like one other point to bring up that I think is worth discussing. So when it comes to let me just ask, and I promise I'll tie this in, but go with me on this. It's gonna seem not related, but I mean, do you consider like civil rights movements and things like that for minority groups to be important? Like things that
wow, yeah, this is quite the jump. I mean, yeah, generally, like I would see that's probably good.
Generally. So like anything that put in place for like to target one demographic unfairly would probably be a bad thing by its nature, right? Would you agree with that?
Yep. Is this going to go into the thing from your opening statement about how if I start dehumanizing fetuses, I must now dehumanize black people or something?
No. Just a little history. Margaret Sanger, founder of the what became Planned Parenthood, was a documented eugenicist. She spoke about eugenics at conferences and wrote about eliminating the unfit and believed birth control was a tool for population management. She later collaborated on the WEB Negro Project, especially targeting black communities. And if you look at the current ratios of abortions, black women constitute 42% of it. So I guess, why do you hate black people?
Hey, look, I love black people because I'm defending their rights to bodily autonomy. If anything, this is an
you're defending their rights to self-delete en masse. That's what you're defending.
Well, I'm not someone that, believes, again, like I already said at the start, like I don't think that we're under any obligation. In the same way that I don't think we should be setting up rape camps to like increase the birth rates, I don't think that we should be forcing black people to carry pregnancies. I don't think that's the moral way to go about it. If you want to increase birth rates, then I'll join you and I'll say, look, like let's try and explore some policies that do it, because I think in some countries,
you increase like Japan, birth rates by banning abortion. That's how you do it.
Yeah, and
just
also
like historically.
Also rape camps. But I'm not.
Well,
in favor
under
of it
under your moral paradigm, that might allow that. Under mine, it doesn't.
Well, I wouldn't allow it under my moral paradigm, but I also wouldn't allow abortion to be banned under my moral paradigm either. So this idea that you just get to like skip away from it and just say, look, like, I'm going to say that what I care about is birth rates, but the only thing that will increase the birth rates just happens to be the thing that I think is morally right and not the thing I think is morally wrong. Then I just get to levy that same criticism and just say,
you understand that under your worldview, you have to go to these extreme disanalogous scenarios in order to justify killing babies.
What did I bring up that was disanalogous? You brought up black people and civil rights movements.
You brought up. I know. I gave you the history. I gave you the history of Planned Parenthood. That is actual history, is it not?
And you tied it back, and I tied back all of my examples as
well.
No,
you keep going with the rape camps thing. That's what you have to go to in order to justify the systematic killings of the most innocent people.
That's pointing out that's an internal critique of your view, because you're saying that what you care about is maximizing birth rates, and what I'm trying to figure out is
hold on, that's not no. My position isn't about maximizing anything. My position is about not killing humans when they're the most vulnerable. That's what my
That's
position
fine, but
is.
then again, the birth rate invocation, it's just a pointless side tangent then, because if you get to
Well,
levy
no.
the fact.
No, it's
Well,
not.
Look,
Okay,
you don't think rape camps are okay because it's immoral, right? And I don't think that forcing forcing pregnancies is okay because it's immoral. So I don't really see
have
what the point is. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
I
apologize.
just have a small question as a clarification. Your position has to do, if I'm not mistaken, Mo, it has to do with the justification, right, of said killing. It has nothing to do with maximization. It's just
that, yeah, correct.
of the
It's
killing,
not
right?
maximize. It's the justification of maximize. It's the justification of killing what is a human life at conception. And also, before you got here, we covered the birth rates and how societal collapse is basically in the future if we don't correct this to some degree, and historical events of how it has collapsed. It was collapsing other government structures, and they had to do something about it in order to get the birth rates going.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
that
I was just trying to figure out, because I was confused on whether or not you were trying to give a justification for the killing, or if you had another kind of argument. And when
well,
Gus
I've been
was
asking
like
for a
giving,
justification for the killing. All I've heard is like arbitrary. Like this is at this date, we think they don't have
yeah, that's
consciousness,
fine.
so we're allowed to kill them. And we, oh,
Yeah,
by the
I'm
way,
not
we don't
debating.
know
I'm
for
just
sure.
all the
Yeah,
questions
no,
I'm
I
asking
get
is
it.
just
Yeah.
clarification for the chat. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, but that's basically where we're at with this.
I mean, look, I don't see why my line is any more arbitrary than your line. I mean, you've basically said to me, here is conception. This is a scientific line, and that's why it's not arbitrary. And I'm saying, look, here's the thalamocortical connections. Here is a scientific line, and here's why it's not arbitrary.
well,
and
no,
for some reason, your line isn't
you
arbitrary.
admitted
and my
that
line
you
is.
only think, and you're using best judgment to assume that they don't have consciousness, which calls into question your
Well,
line in the begin with. You admitted this multiple times because you
what
don't know
I'm
for
saying
sure.
is that if they have an experience, that's where I would draw the line. But because qualia is epistemically private, I have to infer it from when they have the structures of the brain,
Right.
which is perfectly fine. You're
Well,
acting
I'm
like
sure
this
you
is some
consider
type
it
of
fine.
problem.
It is.
But you also, but it's not, because I said to you, if I gave you the scenario of like a box with a 50-50 chance of a baby in it, you also don't think
Yeah,
it's
don't
okay to
shoot the box. Don't shoot the box.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm saying don't
abort
fucking
the baby.
with the thalamocortical. Yeah, I'm saying don't abort the baby that might be having a conscious experience, but you can abort the ones that definitely won't.
So
be.
then, are you going to? Okay, so
then
then to be absolutely sure, are you willing to move the window back a few weeks then on your stance?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I draw the line at around 20 weeks, which is comfortably before thalamocortical connections.
Okay. But you're also throwing out the whole future of said entity as well, even though
again,
you
this has been
recognize
addressed
it's
because I take the embodied mind account of identity. So when you say entity, the entity that I think is morally relevant is the self and the person, which is a psychological state, not an organism state.
You need a subject before you can have a subject's future, do you not?
Yes, and the subject is the mind. When I say
the subject is the subject from a biology standpoint is conception, comes classified as a new species wise.
Yeah, but the concept of the self and the philosophy of personhood is not solved by science. That's a philosophical question, and I
right. So we shouldn't risk. Right. So we shouldn't play
Right.
loose with this, and we should just have an actual stance that we can say conception and just leave it at that.
No, because in the same way that you look at conception and say, look, this is human life, this is valuable, I can say, look, like under my conception of the self, like, here's the thalamocortical connections, that's also totally consistent. I'm not really seeing any reason why I shouldn't hold to this, because what I value is conscious experience and conscious continuity. And if that only first gets established after the necessary brain parts are connected, then I don't really understand why just because you don't agree with my conception of the self, like you might define the self as rocks being valuable. You might define value as caring about whether or not.
No, I've been very specific on what I consider to be life.
Yeah,
well, no, you just moved your goalpost a little bit. You said it was you said you moved back a few weeks just to be sure. So it seems like your
I never moved that
stance.
goalpost back. I actually said at the beginning of the conversation, which you're welcome to go back and watch afterwards, I actually said that I would draw the line a bit earlier just to ensure that there would be no Like, like no accidental killings. I'm pretty sure I said that verbatim.
Well,
If I didn't, then I apologize, but like that is the stance. Like, I did say to you in the Discord message that it's 20 to 24 weeks, and that is before the thalamocortical connection. So that seems consistent to me.
All right. Well, looks like we're at an hour.
Okay, no worries.
I guess.
Time. You still have about 30 seconds, but it's fine if you want to go to closing.
Yeah, mine okay. It's at 101, but yeah,
well,
it's fine.
I put a little bit of time because I wasn't completely sure, but I was taking care of the time.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I guess we can go to closing.
How long was the opening?
We did 5 minutes, but I'm probably not gonna.
No, you can do let's do 4 minutes closing just so you have enough time for anything. You can do 5 minutes again if you want to as well.
Mine's not going to take that, but who do you want to go first?
Who opened the debate?
He opened. He was the affirmative.
Then you would be first, Mo, in the closing.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, I got you.
All right. So I guess in closing, my opponent, we spent the debate trying to tell you what a fetus is not sentient enough, not valuable enough, not a person yet. In my opinion, they never really answered the question I asked at the start. When does a genetically distinct human organism acquire the right to not be killed? There was a lot of arbitrary discussion back and forth on sentience and consciousness, even though he has no way to even verify if it's conscious or not. Every threshold that they offered was really just arbitrary. Every line they drew dissolved under just some questions. So abortion is not a positive for society. It's a net subtraction of people. In my opinion, the prompt itself is pretty much self-refuting, as I brought up. You can't have a society without people. Human life is it has supreme worth when it comes to what we consider worth preserving while we're on this mortal plane. And the only philosophical foundation on which any right that any other right can rest, really. You cannot build a society on the idea that some humans count and some do not. Every civilization that's tried has learned the same lesson, and we are not exempt from it. My opponent even admitted that it is a human life at conception, but somehow throws out the future and says that, well, it doesn't have a future because it's not conscious yet, even though if you don't terminate it, it will become a human adult life and go on to live a life and have experiences and all the things that life brings. But somehow he just wants to throw that out. I don't understand how that makes any sense. But that's all I have, and I'll end it there and for the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mo, for the closing. Ghost, I will put 5 minutes on the clock for you as well. Whenever you are ready, I will start the timer.
Okay. So I'd like to say, listen, I think life is a beautiful thing. I love living, okay? But the reason why I love living is because when I talk about me and my experiences, it's exactly that I'm talking about, my experiences. What makes us human beings so special is our ability to interact with the world in what I would say is like a meaningful way. The fact we can go around, we make decisions, we form beautiful relationships with people, we build these societies and amazing things. These aren't being done by, plants or rocks. Like, these are being done by not just human organisms, they're being done by people that have experiences. And I think that's important. And, my opponent is saying that my line is arbitrary, but I think has failed to substantiate it because I have presented a very, very clear line. I said that when the thalamocortical connections form, that is my line. But because they form at different rates for different people, I'll draw the legal line earlier just to make sure we don't accidentally kill anyone, that I consider valuable. So I'm happy to draw that line earlier. But ultimately, that's just because it's a legal thing, right? because we can't be legally perfect in every way. So I think, the thalamocortical connection point is just a biological fact, just like conception is. He draws his line at conception and says it's not arbitrary because it's a scientific fact that human life begins at conception. I agree. And it's also a scientific fact that the thalamocortical connections in the brain emerge at 24 weeks, and I draw my line there. So there is no problem with arbitrarity. You're saying that that we can't have a society without people and so on. I agree with all of that, but ultimately, like we examined with like the rape camp scenario, just because there are ways that we could foreseeably increase the birth rate, that doesn't mean that those ways are ethical. So in the same way that my opponent would say that having a rape camp where we force women to have sex with everyone to increase birth rates would not be permissible, I similarly would think that forcing people into pregnancies that they don't want with all the psychological and physical risks associated with such would also not be permissible. Okay, so that this is not an inconsistency. I do think that my opponent was a little bit inconsistent, just as my final point, on the pulling the plug analogy, because if it is the case that my opponent values human life because it's human life and not because of any other accidental property, then surely he should not be okay ever with pulling the plug on someone that's never going to wake up. But he was, and he said, well, if you pull the plug, you're not intentionally trying to kill them, even though you know they're going to die. You're just pulling the plug. It would be a miracle if they lived, but, they will die, probably, and that's just them letting them die naturally. But then suddenly, if I pull the plug on a conscious person that's awake, that's on life support, I pull that plug and I say the same shit. I'm like, I hope this person lives. I'm just letting nature take its course. Suddenly I'm morally responsible for pulling the plug and killing someone, which to me is unreconcilable and clearly a difference. So I think there's a bunch of inconsistencies with the pro-life view if you don't hold to personhood. I think that some type of conscious continuity view is far more morally intuitive. And I hope that speaks to a few people in the audience. But there you go. I wish we had a bit more time, but I won't waste any more.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, you still have 1 minute 40 if you need to say anything else.
Gosh, no, I don't think so. I think we'll leave it at that. I think that's fairly conclusive for me.
Okay, I just want to be sure that you didn't. That is the end of your closing statement, because you do have more time if you need it.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good.
Okay, thank you to both of you. I don't know if you wanna. I believe that I have questions, to be honest, when it comes to these. I don't know if you will mind that I ask some questions to both of you.
Yeah, I'm around however long. So however long you guys want to do this, or if you want to open up the panel or whatever, I'm chilling.
Yeah.
I enjoy these types of discussions, but it's completely up to you.
Yeah, we can go through Emmett's questions and then we can open the panel.
Sure.
Yeah, we can open the panel after. So let's start with. I have a couple of questions. You said that whether or not you agree or disagree with these the policies that you are presenting, right? I will believe you want about 18 to 20 weeks, just to be sure, Ghost.
Yeah.
Okay, and if so it would be dependent upon you being sure whether or not these ontological beings have any kind of value, right?
Yeah.
So if you decided that it's 30 weeks now because you want it to be 30 weeks, is there any difference in what gives them ontological status, which is what you want?
Well, I think in the question of ontology, I mean, it's clear that we like to categorize things based on like physical facts, right? I mean, like my opponent says that human life starts at conception, which I fully agree with. But the reason why we agree on this ontological distinction is because there is a different biological fact that occurs after conception, right? Like DNA forms and combines in a unique way. This is a scientific question. And from that, we draw some type of ontological category. And similarly, what I'm saying is that the thalamocortical connections is another scientific line where I think we can reasonably draw a categorical distinction. Now, you're free to draw lines. Reasonable insofar as if you take it that human life starts at conception, it would only follow that you think it's okay to draw lines on biology.
But I understand, but when I asked you the question, you said it was according to you. So in accordance to me, reasonable be 30 weeks because I just want it to be 30 weeks. I don't know. Eyes form at 30 weeks, so I just decide that it's at 30 weeks because eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yeah, I mean, you might have your own reasons, and then we could disagree about those reasons. I mean, ultimately, like for me, the goal with moral discussions is a game of intuitions. If you just intuitively just want to like commit genocide on like a million people or whatever, and there is literally no fundamental value I can quiz you on or agree with you on, I can't speak to that. If you want to draw the line at 3 weeks for just no reason because you just feel that
Yeah.
way, that's fine. But I think that my reasoning for why I'm drawing the line is not just completely arbitrary. Like I've given you a standard for what I value. Why that thing comes into play
but it's
biologically
your
at a certain
value.
point. That's fine.
This
Yeah,
is what
I
I'm
accept that.
This is what I'm talking about, right? It's about what
Yeah.
you value. So
That's
let's
right.
say that
Yeah.
I value G-siding. It's my value, and I
That's
think
right.
it's good. So if I decide to do it, there wouldn't be anything wrong in accordance to you
Well,
because it's accordance
well, it
to
would be
my
in accordance to
values.
me, right? Because you just said that my values would not align with that.
Yeah,
So if my values don't align with that, I
but not
necessarily think that
logically.
it's wrong.
And
Well,
what do you
what
mean?
logically?
It would not be logically. It would be arbitrary, right? In your worldview, you would say in
No, I mean
accordance
if you
to
like
what I
metal music and I like
yeah.
classical, like
Yeah, that's fine.
it's just a
But we're
different
talking about
taste.
G-siding. You know, it's exactly if I like G-siding and you don't, it's just a difference in likings. You know.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be doing anything wrong in accordance to me. It would just be something that you think is wrong in accordance to you. It's relative to the being. Okay. Mo, when it comes to the yeah, just want to know that when it comes to the idea of conception, I just have one question. Like, do you think it's because the baby, well, I consider a baby, but do you think that the being is um why exactly do you think that the being has this like ontological status of personhood from the conception? I wasn't completely I'm not entirely sure why you believe that.
Because a conception has a unique genetic DNA sequence from a biology.
So
Now
it's just about
that's the biology. That's kind of like the biology answer. Now, if I'm going to lean on
Mhm.
my actual worldview, I would say everyone's made in the image of God and has intrinsic value. I could lean on that. But for the discussion of this debate, I just leaned on more of the biology.
Okay, so it's more about you're talking only about the fact that it has a different DNA. If it's the case that is just a biological fact, as he says, what is there a distinction between the form of the hypothalamus to the form of the DNA when it comes to you choosing which one to value?
So under my view, and what I put forth in the argument here is that the unique DNA of that entity, now that it is classified as a human, under now that it's classified as a human, its future will be like ours eventually when it grows up, and so infringing on that is robbing it of that future. So putting a marker between anywhere in there, to me, there's no difference between putting the markers at some time in the womb or sometime when they're like 18 or something. You're still cutting off a life that will eventually become a person, fully formed like person with their own thoughts and their own ideas and their own future.
Okay, so it's
Am I allowed
mostly
to pose a question on that after, or is it just strictly like back and forth, like between Q and A's?
No, I mean, the once we open the panel, I think the conversation will be open. I'm just trying to what I was trying to figure
Yeah, no
out
worries.
is another is like if there is some kind of um justification be well we're talking when I'm talking about this it's about metaphysics. So I understand that you can come to the conclusion that is that in biology you need one for other to happen. That's fine. I was just wondering if there is like the metaphysical term. If you want to ask a question, Ghost, you can ask a question right now. That's fine.
Yeah. Right. So let me see. So the view that you're holding to is known as like animalism, which is just the idea that we are our organisms, right? Because you keep repeating this fact that like human life starts at conception, which I agree with, and because of that, that's where you ground your personhood. So that's animalism. So what I'm wondering is,
No,
if
it's
there was
not it's not an animalism view. It's
what's the difference?
so it's twofold. When I say the classification is for biology, I'm leaning into the biology just for the classification to say like this is a human life. But the moral reason is the future reason. You're cutting off the future of this life. It's
Well, I would
too
say, I would say, if I may, I apologize for putting in, but I would say that justification comes from the type of being itself. Because I don't think you do you
well,
eat
yeah,
meat,
that's
Ghost?
I do eat meat. Yeah.
Yeah. So if a cow is 5 years old, fully formed, has the capacity of the cow, does the thing that a cow does, maybe have like very simple um consciousness in the sense that it moves, it acts in accordance to whether or not there's food, for example. I would
I
still
mean,
go on and delete it and eat it and have a great time
well,
doing
I
it.
mean, I
When
do
it
think
comes
it's
to
wrong to
you
kill
and when it,
animals, so I'm not sure if that applies to my view.
you
Like, I
think
do
it's
eat
wrong
meat,
to
but that's like, but I'm
you
agnostic over whether or not there's a big enough
well
gap in the supply chain there for the moral culpability. But
w-
sure,
w-
I understand what you're saying.
why but then animalism is totally fine, right?
Well, well, animalism. I don't know what you guys think animalism is exactly, but animalism is the view that our account of identity is reduced to our biological state. So the fact that we're an organism, right?
Yeah,
So like, I
what
am
is
a human with human DNA.
the mind you're pointing out when you're talking about the cow that I just that I just killed hypothetically so I could eat its meat?
Wait, what is the question about the cow?
Yeah, what is the mind from this hypothetical cow that I just deleted so I could consume its
Well,
meat
it
because
had a
it's
mind, didn't it?
delicious?
Right? Because cows are conscious.
I don't think so. I think they act exactly as an amoeba would act.
No, cows are conscious, but it depends what you mean by
If I have a
consciousness. But,
yeah, they have a very limited consciousness. If I have an amoeba and I put food, things they eat, they will act in accordance to, oh, there's food here, and they're gonna move towards it.
well,
In fact,
amoebas don't
there's
have
a specific
awareness in the same way.
no, they do. There's a specific amoeba that if you drink it, nothing will happen. But if it goes into your nose, it knows that it's on your nose, and it will go to your brain, and then it will eat your brain.
I mean, my understanding is that for things like amoebas and bacteria and like microscopic life, like these types of things are running pretty much fully on automatic processes because they do not have the complex
Yeah.
structures such that they can generate any like qualitative experience. But we can
Yeah, I
definitely
say the
infer
same
that a
thing about
cow has a
cows.
quality. Well, no, cows we can infer have a qualitative experience because
No, they don't. It's just wait,
they
wait,
got the
wait.
same brain structures as humans in a similar sense.
No,
So I'm
they
not sure what they're
don't.
doing.
Like if you could go to a cow and I ask the cow, "Hey, cow, can you please go on and tell me what is this thing that you consider to be beautiful?" The cow would look at me and say, "Moo," and
Okay,
then I
yeah, but
would
you
be
could do
like,
that. You could do
"Oh,
that
yeah,
to
I
like a 2-year-old
understand.
child as well. I mean, that
I
doesn't mean
get
it's
it.
not conscious.
Exactly. I do. I think, in accordance to my, this is what I was telling you. If it's in accordance to my preferences, I would say that the moment I would say that the moment we should stop uh, performing abortions is, I don't know, 25. All of the other times, they're not fully formed, they're kind of dumb. Sometimes they vote for Democrats, so it's very annoying. And I think that if you are like an 18 and you're doing this kind of dumbassery, you have lost your personhood status because that's what I prefer. And I don't
Well,
see there anything
look,
wrong
you
with
can
what I
define
said,
person.
right?
Yeah, that's fine. You can define personhood
Yeah.
however you like, but I just
So
don't. That's not my account of identity.
yeah, so again, we're just doing arbitrary. When you're saying to Mo, hey, this is
Well,
just
in the same
animalism,
way
you
that
don't
you might
actually mean
consider like,
anything.
well, you might consider a heap of sand when it has 1,000 like grains. I might consider it a
Yeah,
heap when it has 10,000 grains. Like
yeah,
you know,
I get it.
okay. I mean, there's no fact of the matter when we're talking about heaps.
True,
Like
there's no fact of the matter, so we can just go ahead and decide. Deciding suddenly is not wrong anymore, right?
I don't know what you mean by wrong. I mean, I take wrong to just be like
Wrong
an
would be
internal kind
that
of
which is
subjective state.
yeah, you don't have anything that is wrong. It's just you have things that you prefer and things that you don't. I would say that is that acting in accordance to a higher standard than yourself, usually called God. But in your case, you don't have anything that is actually wrong. You just do whatever you prefer.
Yep, that's fine. That's not a problem for my view. I think that's just descriptively true, seemingly, about how the world interacts. I mean, like, we have tons of religions and individuals that will have like seemingly very, very different moral views. Throughout societies, we've we've invaded,
Yep.
we've raped, we've pillaged, we've like conquered, we've genocided, and I think all of these things suck. But like,
Yeah,
it's
but
just
I
the
would say
case
all
that
of
like
that is
people do
good,
just have different
right?
views.
All,
Okay,
all
that's
of
fine.
that that
I
you
don't
said
agree.
is good, right? Well, you would agree too that it's good, right? In
No,
fact,
I
you
don't
would
agree.
agree that it's just things that are. You may prefer them or not, but it's just things that happen. There's no good or bad in there. The guy that was
Well,
doing the
yeah,
graping,
there's no good
great.
or bad. There's some type of objective property in the matter. No, I don't think that exists. But because
Yeah,
there's no
so
evidence for that.
yeah, I understand that. I mean, I 100% understand what you're saying, but then then I don't understand where you're getting this idea of good or bad, right? It's just you would
It's my
in the
it's
way
my
that you
own
would
moral
say is I
system.
think that I prefer that would be it.
Well, it's obviously not going to be quite as blunt as that, but on a fundamental level,
Why
sure, like
not?
it is going to speak to my like emotional states or my kind of preferential states. So on a fundamental level, that's true, but that doesn't mean that I can't develop a more kind of sophisticated moral view normatively, just because my meta ethical view stems from like a subjective emotional state. That's not a problem.
Okay.
All right,
Well,
so
yeah,
we're at 9:45. So I
we
think
should
this
open the
might,
panel, I
yeah,
think.
I think it's a good time to open the panel. Let's go ahead and take a quick bathroom break. Let everybody stretch their legs, get a drink. When I come back, I'll open up the panel. So let's go ahead and do that real quick, okay? Let's give it like 5 minutes or so.
No worries.
Okay.
I mean, I see him on camera at least.
Yeah.
All right, we're back.
Yo.
All right. Well, the link is in the chat. So anybody who wants to come up and kind of trade verbal blows, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for people to hop in, I mean, I feel like we kind of went on a little bit of a side tangent. The more pointed question that I was trying to ask you before we like kind of got wrapped up in what animalism is that what I'm trying to figure out is that let's just imagine that there's a hypothetical. We don't even really need to run to a hypothetical. I mean, this does actually happen with real humans, funnily enough. I mean, what's the condition called again? Dicephalous twins, like conjoined twins. Like, it seems like these are the same organism, but they have two exist. Like the existence of two minds is kind of present. So, are these two people or one people in your view?
Well, I would say that it seems like genetically it was a defect that was supposed to be two people, but then they stayed conjoined for whatever situation. Now the problem with this is also like the exception doesn't make the rule, right? So it would be hard to make
Well,
a blanket rule
kind of
over
does.
like
If you have a
ho-
rule that says like, never lie, and I find an exception of lying, like then your rule
well,
doesn't
no,
work.
if you
So
you can't make like blanket claims on when to end a life or judgment on like some weird defect that happens. That would be kind of retarded to do that for everybody.
I'm not saying that the judgment on when to end the life is because of a dicephalus case. I'm saying that the dicephalus case is evidence that we take the embodied mind account of identity more intuitively rather than an animalistic account.
Right, but see,
That's what that's evidence for.
under my worldview, I wouldn't terminate them either because they have a future.
Okay, but that's not really the question. The question is are we an organism or are we a mind? So under your worldview, there should be one person there, which to me seems completely unintuitive.
No, because it was a genetic defect that was supposed to be two that made them one.
Okay, what if it was an alien species that is one organism and the way their genetics are supposed to work is to develop two heads and they develop
Well,
two
I
different
don't,
brains?
I don't give a shit
I mean,
about alien species. You know, they can. I don't know, like even how
okay,
to
I mean,
how do
you
we
have
even
to be
how
able
do
to
we even
engage with the
comment?
hypothetical.
Yeah.
No, how
if
do I
I
even
said-
comment on an alien species I know nothing about?
You do know something
Yeah,
about it. I've stipulated it in the hypothetical. I've given you relevant facts.
Yeah, let's say that it's I can answer that. Let's say that it's a snake that has two heads, right? And each head does its own thing, which exists, by the way. If it was the case that you have a snake with two heads, it will be just an animal, so it's only the biological.
Yeah, I mean, in that example, I would say, yeah, there's two beings there. Absolutely, I would say that. There's one
I would say the
biological
great-
organism, but there are
That's
two.
what
Yeah.
that's what I said. That it's about the ontology of the being. I think the ontology of the being well, I don't think the ontology of the being that we are is different to all other organisms. So if you believe that animals have to be protected for some reason, I don't understand why. And it's killing them is wrong, even though the justification to killing them is simply because they're different kind of organisms.
Yeah, actually,
I don't see the problem with animalism.
I have a question for you, Ghost. So let's just say I grant a lot of what you're saying, right? And that, this stage that you've picked puts this human life at a stage that is lesser value than someone walking around, right? Let's assume that I just accept that, right, for the sake of argument.
Well, like a early term fetus versus someone walking around.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah.
So even under your worldview, in that it would still be the second most valuable thing on Earth to protect.
What do you mean the second most viable thing?
Well, the first would be someone who you consider has personhood.
Yeah.
So even under your worldview, it would be the second most valuable thing in the world to protect. And we have laws around things like killing, bald eagle eggs and all this other stuff. You would catch a felony. Like, why would we not protect that over all else, even though it's the second most valuable thing on Earth?
Well, I don't think we would have laws that would say that we can't destroy bald eagle eggs if the bald eagle eggs were growing inside of our womb and then that presented with us health risks and psychological risks. Do you think
No, but you're not really addressing the critique. It's the second, under your paradigm, it would be the second most valuable thing that we should protect as far as like rights go. So why would you not
That's
want
not
to?
entailed. I said I don't value it at all before.
So you don't value it at all
before it's conscious.
So you value it
conscious.
less than like a lot of like dolphins and shit, right? Because you believe in
Yeah, I would actually value the dolphins more. Yeah, I would say it's actually better to kill a fetus than a dolphin for sure, because a dolphin has an experience to speak of that's like it's capable of complex social behavior. It's capable of being benefited and suffering.
I'm glad we can establish that.
Yeah. I mean that's just obviously the case for me. I mean, in my worldview, that makes perfect sense. Like, obviously, if there's like a mother that like is pregnant with like a 1-week-old fetus or something, and she has some type of relational value, and it's something in her body that's like she values, then we should respect her relational value to the fetus. But that doesn't change the fact that the fetus itself. Well, because we respect people's property rights, right? It's not okay if I like come up and smash your car.
Don't. No,
yes, we do. We quite literally legislate against property rights. What are you talking about?
No, I mean, have you seen what happened in Iran? You think that was
Um,
very respectful from us? Be like, hey, Iranians, we respect you a lot, but we are going to take the shit
Look,
out
that's
of
the
your
president that you guys
navy.
voted for. I
And
don't know, like fuck
yes,
that. I mean, look, maybe your
yeah,
president isn't a very moral. I'm sorry about that,
yeah.
but
And
I'm
if you
sure we
had the
generally
power of the
agree.
American military, you would probably do the same, but you don't. Thank God.
No,
You
yeah,
know?
thank God, because I wouldn't do the same. Because no, I'm
Yeah,
not
thank God.
crazy. I
You
wouldn't do
would.
that.
You
Why
would.
would I do the
If
same?
it was the case, you would be pro. I'm pretty sure that you are pro charging more in taxes, giving more to the poor, right?
I mean, it's not really relevant to the position. I mean, like, sure, if we can create
Oh,
a taxation
no
system
problem.
that's
Wait, wait.
fair or whatever
I
that
thought
works, yeah.
fair. There it is. You don't give a fuck about property. You only want it to be fair. So you would use force to whatever you think fair is, and you would take as much from the rich quotations to give to the poor, as long as it's your case.
So you think that taking people's property is always wrong? So
No, I don't.
okay, well that's not my view either. So I'm not sure what the
yeah,
reduction is.
exactly. Well, you were talking about respecting property rights, and I said I don't give a fuck about them. Neither do
Okay,
you.
so do you think it's okay? Wait, you don't? So is it
that's a
okay then if I come into your house and I
no.
steal your car or something? Don't know why you'd store it in your house, but
Yeah, you were
is that
talking
okay?
about stealing, right? So that would say that that's wrong because the moral. Okay, it doesn't matter. Let me
Oh,
put
okay.
the A and not A in your position. My A, you know, your A and no A is I want to respect property rights, and also I don't give a shit about your property rights, right? I'm gonna go ahead and take as much when it comes to me having capacity in the government, if I could, because I want to and I can. And also, please don't do it because it's bad. You know, it's an A and no A
you
position.
know, I think that there is a difference between like what we would consider like someone's personal property that isn't doing anyone any harm versus like money that it can be used as a tool for instrumental good in a society
3
where
billion,
we kind of need some form of taxation to build our roads and so on, right? Now,
if I have
you might disagree with tax,
if I
but it's not
yeah, no,
inconsistent
if
for
I
me to
have,
value some property over other
yeah,
property.
let's say that I have $3 billion, okay?
Yeah.
Is it causing you any harm that I have $3 billion?
Well, yeah, because if my mum like can't go to hospital because the public
Well,
services
so
are severely
wait.
underfunded because you're not paying your fair share, then yes, that would be
Oh,
causing me harm.
oh, now we have to do our fair share too, okay? You thought we're talking
Yeah.
about harm. What is the harm that I'm causing you? I got it on my
The,
own.
yeah, the
I
lack
have
of
$3 billion, and you want to take that away from me,
Do you not think
right?
we have an obligation to care for our fellow countrymen?
On your worldview, no.
Wait, why would that not be entailed under my worldview?
On your worldview,
That's actually clearly more the case under my worldview.
What is my obligation on your worldview? My obligation in the worldview is to act as I want to.
Wait, my worldview is what's mine. Okay, so within my values. So if you adhere to my value structure, yeah, my value structure.
I'm taking your value structure and using it on me. So your value structure would be in accordance to you because it's accordance to you, you know, to your individual.
Yeah, if you took my value
ideas.
structure and then you said it was okay to kill 6 million people or whatever, like that's not you taking my value structure. That's you.
It is. It is.
Imposing your own value structure.
No. I'm taking the foundation of your value structure and I'm applying it to my ones.
No, what you're doing is you're taking my meta-ethical view and you're using that as a foundation for your own normative ethical view instead of taking my normative ethical view. This is like easy.
Ghost, this is not. There's no normativity. Okay, we move away from normativity a while ago. I ask you directly. Hey,
this is normative ethics. What are you talking about?
No, this is not normative ethics. This is subjectivism. We are subjectives.
Yeah,
You're a subjectivist. I am a subjectivist, and I am the subject while you are the subject.
But not all subjectivists hold the same normative ethics.
Exactly, because there's no normativity.
Well, no, that's not what that means.
The normative means, okay.
I like classical music. You like metal music. Therefore, no one likes any music. There's no system of preferences at all. Is that what you're saying?
That's not. No. Okay.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, I like classical music, and I'm justified in liking classical music because it's my liking. okay, and you like metal music, and you're justified in liking metal music because it's your liking. You don't like deciding because you don't like it, so you're justified in your likings. But I love it, and I'm justified in my likings.
Who's
It is
talking about justification? I
it
agree
is
that you're justified.
exactly. So anything,
This is not a reductio. I don't care about this. That's fine. That's
it's
entailed
not
by
a
my worldview.
reductio.
That's
It's
fine.
not a reductio. It is your worldview because this is the basics
Yeah.
of
And what's your
the
point?
ethics. The basis of your ethics is the basis of my ethics.
You
I'm
d-
using your worldview. I can do anything
That's
the
fine.
fuck
Yes,
I
you
want as long as
can.
I like it.
Yes.
Perfect. Then
But I
I'm
obviously
doing
won't agree with
everything.
that, will
I'm
I?
taking your worldview and applying it to me. Okay, and
This shows
I
a
am the one that is
fundamental
doing it.
misunderstanding of moral philosophy, unfortunately.
No,
So
it just sorry, but it shows that you don't understand the basics of your argumentation when it comes to
I do understand the
applying it
basis
to
of my
anybody.
argumentation.
It
Look,
can-
if you allow
it
me to
ju-
speak for a second, I can explain to you why. So,
Okay.
well, when I say you're taking my value structure, if you don't then align with me on all of my values, then it's just simply not the case that you're taking my value structure. Because when I say value structure, I'm talking about normative ethics, and then you're equivocating onto meta ethics, which is a completely different question. You're saying that just because my meta ethical view means that
wait,
morality is
I'm not
subjective
your
and stems from
subject.
emotions.
Yeah, Ghost, but I'm not your subject, right?
That's fine, but me as a subject has certain normative values,
Yeah,
right?
but I
and
don't
if you
give a
don't
fuck
apply
about
those,
you. I have my own
I
normative
know.
values that are
Then
based
that's
on
fine.
that
Okay, that's
based on your
fine.
worldview. Your worldview
Well, they're not
is-
based on my
this is-
worldview because you're not
Yes,
basing it on my
they-
normative ethics.
No, they are because listen, okay?
Doesn't make any
Your
fucking
normative
sense.
I don't even have access to your normative ethics, okay? I don't have access to your framework beyond the framework. So all I have access to is, hey, the way that I look at things and the way that I get to my ideas is through whatever I prefer.
This
right?
doesn't make any sense. For example, I'll illustrate why this is trivially silly. Okay, so for
Wait,
example,
wait.
like let's say
Let me ask you a question real quick. One
okay,
question.
go ahead.
Is it possible for me to know your preferences?
I can tell
All of
them
them.
to you. Yeah.
No,
No,
all of
probably
them.
not all of them. No.
Perfect. So all I can, when it comes to
So when you
your
say that
fucking
you can take my
preferences, I don't
view,
have
you
access to
can't do
them.
that then, right?
No, I can take your structure, the structure of your view.
you
So
don't know my
I
view?
can take the fact, I can take the fact that your worldview is based on your preferences and say, oh, I like that. I like that the worldview is
Okay.
based on the preferences. I'm gonna take that worldview and apply my preferences. So
That would be the
all I'm
meta-ethical
doing is
decision.
taking perfect. I don't give a fuck about anything else because I don't have access to anything else anyway.
That's
So
what people do anyway. Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Exactly. Well, people don't do that, to be honest. All they do is force. In your worldview, all they do is force. This is why all you care
That's
is
what
power.
happens in my worldview is more aligned with the real world then, because that's exactly how morals have been enforced everywhere in history all the time.
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect. Great.
Yeah, so my worldview is more in line with reality. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree. So all we have to do as Christians is take all the Christians in the world and burn all
And
the
just-
fucking witches and do whatever we
Yeah.
want, and we're justified in our likings in your worldview.
Well, a justification, like I don't know what you take justification to be. Like it's fine.
Justification means
Like,
a good reason to do something.
Yeah, but like if you're saying that there's okay, listen, you've been speaking a
My
lot.
good
Let me
reason
just
to do
address
anything
it.
is
Let
because
me
I
just
like
address
I
it.
like to be with Christians. They're very cool. And then I'm gonna go ahead and burn all the witches because I like it, because that's very cool too. And
Yeah,
then we're
so-
gonna have a good society because you know what? That's the preference way.
Yeah,
Because I prefer
so-
that too. And then your worldview, in the way that you look at things, that's a
I get a
perfectly
chance.
justified.
Yeah,
good
Okay,
reason
okay,
to do
I get
Emmett,
it,
anything.
Emmett, let him,
I get
Adam,
it, yeah.
all right, Emmett, let him respond real quick.
Yeah, look, I get the point. Morality subjective mean I can say rape okay. I get it. Okay, I get it. But what I'm saying is that when we're talking about morality, there's two lenses that we're looking through. There's your meta ethics and your normative ethics. Okay, so it could be the case that two people share the exact same meta ethical view, but two completely
impossible.
contradictory. Well, let me finish. Right. They could share the exact same meta ethical view, which is exactly what you're stipulating right now.
Yeah.
But then they could share. They would have two completely contradictory normative ethical views. For example, it could be the case that you're a meta-ethical non-cognitivist, right? You could take the case that you could make the statement that actually morality is just like, it's just expressions of boo and yay. It's not even like a truth app statement. It's just simply emotion, right? That's what you could say. But that wouldn't change the fact that your normative ethical view could be a rule utilitarian, right? And then the other guy might be a virtue ethicist. You guys
but-
do
but
not agree
why?
on what to do in society.
Yeah,
Right?
but why? Why would it be a rule utilitarian?
Well, the reasoning behind why they come to those types of systems might be the same in terms of like the fact that it stems from their emotional or preferential states. But the reality is that if you don't adopt my system, you don't adopt my values. Okay, you can adopt like my meta ethical view and do whatever the fuck you want. I agree. I'm a moral anti-realist.
I adopted your system. I adopted your system. It's what I prefer. Just like you prefer, right?
That's not my system. That's not my normative system, though.
It is your system. It comes from that. I don't have access to your wants, but I have access
well, then
to
why
my
is
wants.
It that not, why is it that a utilitarian and a virtue ethicist that are both moral anti-realists don't agree on what's right and wrong?
Listen, those are just words, okay? If I can prefer,
yeah, those words mean something if you read a book about philosophy.
Yeah, and I understand that I understand they point towards some kind of concept, but in your worldview, even the concept, even the idea of the concept itself would be dependent upon the subject. So I can make them be whatever the fuck I want, and all I need is in fact power.
Is this going anywhere? Right? Like, yes, I know, I accept this. Yeah. Yes, you can tell me that you think that like mass genocide is good. Yes, you can do that. Yes. Is there a
exactly. I agree.
What is the point of all this?
The point is that you don't have access to good or bad.
I know, I'm a moral anti-realist. I know, you have to prove to me that good or bad exists. Why the fuck should I believe good or bad exists beyond the mind?
I don't have to prove to you anything. I can just force you to do anything and it will be good because I like it.
Well, it wouldn't be good because you like it, right? It would be good to you because you like it.
No, I could force you to go to church, okay?
This is very unproductive.
Force you to crucify you in church and it would be good because I like it.
Do you just get excited every time you get to tell me that my view is on preferences? Like I get it.
Listen, you can say I don't.
Do you have a problem for my worldview? Is my worldview wrong? Do you have a problem with it?
Yeah, it's wrong.
Okay, why is it wrong?
Because it's absurd.
Okay, that's not a reason.
When it comes to logic, it is a reason. What are you talking about? When it comes to the logical ideas. Yeah, when it comes to the ideas, well, as I said, you have P and not P positions. When you literally said a P and not P position a little moment ago. The P and not P was I respect property rights, and then at the same time you didn't give a shit about property rights, right?
That's stupid. That's like that would be like if I said to Mo over here, you care about human life? Well, I had to kill someone out of self-defense, so clearly that's a P and not P. The context matters.
That's what people say all the time. You know, they say
but you know that would be silly, right? Like you know that would not be a good critique of my bro Mo over here.
No, but the point I would say
so your critique of me is not good, then, is it?
The point is the justification. Do you have a good reason to kill that person that attacked you or was threatening you? You know that's a good reason to do it. Can you please tell me a good reason to delete a baby in the womb of a mother? That is similar.
Yeah, because it's causing her physical and psychological stress.
It's causing her what? Did you cause your mom physical and psychological stress, Ghost?
Probably, yeah. Pregnancy is quite a difficult process.
Probably. Why is it difficult?
That's a very man response. I mean, like you have to literally push.
I'm asking you. I'm really asking you.
Yeah, because it comes with health risks. It changes a lot of your hormonal states.
Okay, waking up comes from harm risks.
Huh?
Everything comes with harm risks. Have you, like, for example, would you be okay with removing cheeseburgers from every?
Well, would you be okay with forcing people to eat cheese? I'm okay with people choosing to do what they choosing what they want to do with their body. You're not.
You're removing cheeseburgers because they could cause harm, right?
If someone has a cheeseburger in their mouth and they want to spit it out, I think they should be able to exercise that bodily autonomy. I do think that.
No. What you were saying is because you say harm, so. At what point are we going to say that harm? If harm is the problem, anything can be harmful, right?
Yeah, we can draw reasonable lines in places, right?
How did we get to the reasonable part? Because so far, it's according to whatever the fuck you want.
Wait, do you think harm is bad? Yeah, do you think harm is bad?
Do I think what?
harm is bad? Is it bad to
No,
harm
not
people?
necessarily.
No, you
I
don't
don't think it's
well,
necessarily wrong.
excellent. We agree. Okay, so what? How the fuck do you know when harm is sometimes bad and sometimes not bad? How the fuck do you know?
Yeah,
You tell
I know.
me.
Sometimes, yeah. For example, when you can say that there are harms in sacrifice, but that would be a good thing at the end because you're doing something that will come to better things at the end.
So you're
And
a
there's a lot of people
utilitarian?
that see that as harm. No, I'm not a utilitarian.
Okay, well, I'm asking
don't
you. What's your
subscribe
moral
to
view? How the fuck do you know?
Yeah,
What's
it's
good about?
Christianity. Yeah, Christianity.
Okay, sure. So
is
what's
my
your
moral
deontic
view.
system?
What is a what?
What's your deontic system?
You said deontic, but for
Yeah.
for deontology,
Yeah.
would be like the way. Let me see what it actually means because I never heard it before.
So you don't even know
Apologies.
the name of your own system, and you're telling me my view is so like bad,
Yeah,
but you don't
related
even
to
fucking
moral
know
duty,
what you
obligations, and
think moral.
permissions.
Okay, so yeah,
Well,
so that's
yeah,
deontology, yeah, but I'm asking you for what deontological system you hold to.
I never heard deontic before. Okay, I
Okay,
heard
that's fine, that's
deontology. I
fine,
never
that's
heard deontic.
Okay, that's fine. But even
Anyway,
under deontology, like
when
there's
it
different
comes-
types of
yeah,
deontological systems.
When it comes to the system, yeah, well, my justification comes from God. So I acting in accordance to God will be the good thing, right? My moral
So
duty
so if
is
God
in
commanded
accordance
tomorrow
to
that
God.
rape is okay, would that be okay?
In accordance to you, yes, because it's his preference.
Well, according to you, yes, because God would be doing it. So
Yeah,
under your
but
worldview,
that-
rape is
yes,
okay if
because
God
he's-
commands it. Under
because
my
he's
worldview, it's never
justified,
okay.
right? No,
Why?
your worldview is always okay. What are you talking about? It's your, in your
Well,
worldview, you don't have a way to say it's wrong. It's the thing you prefer.
Well,
or
I
not.
do
And if
because
you
of the
were
way
in the
it comports to my
if you-
values, but I'm not making an external claim when I call it wrong. That's why my worldview is much more parsimonious, because I acknowledge the fact that you can't prove external moral facts, right? So for
Yeah,
me,
no, I
it
can.
seems... Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I can prove that there is the mind of God, and in accordance to His mind, I can ground to good
So
and
it's
evil.
subjective to
Yes.
God.
Exactly, it would be subjective to
So
God
morality is
because we're
subjective.
and also
Okay, cool.
and also
I'm glad
and
we
also yeah, you can say that. Okay, it will be objective to us because
You're just a
he's not
cock
us.
to God's
Okay,
mind. and
I hate to
No,
break this
Ghost,
up. Just
Ghost.
pause for a moment here.
Let
We're
me-
gonna bring someone
No,
new
no.
on the stage.
No
Steelborn.
worries.
Welcome to the stage,
How we doing?
Steelborn. Good to see you. Thanks for
let me-
joining.
What's up?
Continue.
Welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
just to explain that to you, it will be subjective to God because we're talking about his being, but it will be objective to you because he is not your being.
Yeah, so why should I hold to God's morality, and why would that be objective?
Because you're his subject.
What do you mean I'm his subject?
Yes,
I don't know what that means.
you're under his will.
And why should that mean that I'm obligated to hold to it? I assume you imagine that
You're
humans have
not
free will. I
obligated
assume you
because you
believe
have
that.
free will. Thus, it's not a but you ought to do it. This is
Why
this is
ought I do it?
moral claim. Because you ought act in accordance to what is good.
That's a circle.
No.
Wait,
That's not
how
a
do you know what
circle.
good is?
That's
Wait,
a way
what
to
is good?
act. You can
Wait.
act in accordance to what is bad, right? But you ought to act, so you are supposed to do what is good. That's the point.
So you're saying that I ought to do what is good, and good is what I ought to do?
No, what I'm saying, it's a simple statement. You ask me why should I act this way? It's because you ought to
It's
act in
good,
accordance to
okay.
what is good. Yeah,
Okay, and why is what God wants good?
because he is the ultimate justification of what good is.
Okay, can you ultimately justify that for me?
Yeah, have you ever heard of the transcendental argument?
Yeah, I've heard of the transcendental arguments.
Okay, how can you please tell me the transcendental argument?
Like just this idea that, like, in order to ground certain necessary truths, like it needs to be grounded in some type of like immaterial, like lawgiver
No,
or whatever.
I'm
No,
not asking
that's
you
not
to
the
tell
transcendental
me.
argument.
I'm not asking you to tell me of the transcendental argument. Can you tell me the transcendental argument?
Well, like lay it out in like a syllogism. I mean, I don't know if I could do that. I could probably find it, and we
Okay.
can go over it if you like. I mean, I'm asking you about your worldview. Look, like
Yeah, my
I'm not
worldview
saying
is based
I
on
have
the
strong
transcendental
views on like.
argument.
Okay, well,
That's what I'm
present to
asking
me.
you. If you know it, I don't need to do it. If you don't know it, you say I don't know it. It's fine.
Well, I've heard of it because I've had the discussion before about transcendental arguments, but I wouldn't be able to like formalize it into like a syllogism or whatever. Like we'd have to like go over it. But I mean,
Yeah, well,
look,
do you think concepts are mind dependent?
do I think concepts are mind dependent? Yeah, I'd say
Yes.
they seem to be, or at least,
Okay.
yeah, I would say they
Are
seem
there-
to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there concepts that are true that are not dependent upon your mind or any particular mind?
There might be.
Like the laws of
That
logic.
might be like
Yeah,
no,
the-
like 2 + 2 = 4. Is 2 + 2 = 4 true to me and to you and to every mind? Even if no mind existed, you would say 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah, that could be the case. I mean, I'm agnostic to it because I don't know what my metaphysics are yet. I'm still reading about metaphysics.
Can you
so-
please answer yes or no? Like, what the
I'm
fuck? are
sorry
you
that I don't
doing
have the
here?
rigid answer that you want me.
No, fine,
to have,
fine, perfect.
but I'm just saying I'm
you don't
agnostic to it.
Okay, you're agnostic. Okay, shut the fuck up then, because you don't have a
Why,
position.
why are you being so
I
rude?
grant you your ignorance.
angry that
If you want to
I'm
be an
agnostic?
ignorant bitch about it, then I grant it. You are an ignorant bitch about it, and you can be an ignorant bitch about
Are
it.
you
It's
getting
fine.
mad because like you didn't know what deontology was, or why are you mad?
No, he's never heard the term
Deontic.
deontic.
Okay, well that's a
I
bit
wanted to be
embarrassing.
sure
Yeah,
that
that's
I
fine.
was being correct in how I was gonna.
Coming
be
from the guy
using
who
it,
doesn't
so
have
I
his metaphysics
checked
figured
it.
out.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
look,
sorry
guys.
I don't have
Okay,
all
wait,
the
wait,
philosophy
okay,
solved, sorry.
okay, guys, look. I disagree with Ghost fundamentally, but he does have the balls to come up here, and there are two of you and one of him. So let's just take turns and not try to dogpile, okay?
I haven't even
Yeah.
started arguing yet.
Yeah, I
Come on,
know.
Mo.
I'm just saying, like, just trying to get it off of the pass here. But yeah, I mean,
That's
stillborn.
fine.
If you have something you would like to go back and forth with on Ghost, maybe
Well,
this would be a good time.
again, if you cannot answer simple questions like that, and you say, "Well, I'm agnostic,"
Simple
so
questions
I
like,
don't
what's your
know.
entire metaphysical worldview? Yeah, that's so simple, dude.
No, simple questions as is 2 + 2 = 4.
Well, it could be
for
the case that you
every
hold to a
person.
nominalist view, and in that case, 2 + 2 actually would be dependent
Yeah.
on some type of physical
Hold on,
substrate.
if you hold to a nominalist view, then you wouldn't actually be able to know fucking anything, and you wouldn't be able to know nominalism is true.
That might be the case, but I'm just saying that there are examples of worldviews that don't necessarily entail that like 2 + 2 is
Okay,
always
do you agree
true.
that some worldviews are
Remember?
self-refuting? Like if you hold the view that if you say
Maybe, yeah,
all
maybe I'd have
truth,
to
or you
look
say
into
all
all of
truth is
them. Yeah.
subjective. If somebody says all truth is subjective, do you see how what the
Yeah,
problem with that statement is?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
remember when
probably problematic. Maybe, yeah, sure. Like,
It's
but I'm just saying-
self-refuting. That's a universal truth claim.
I'm just saying. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that I have not
Remember-
looked into like every
Ghost-
metaphysical worldview. So, like,
you
I
will
haven't done
never
a
do it,
substantial
by the
amount of
way.
research. Why
You will
not?
never do it. Anyway.
I'm enjoying learning about philosophy right now.
Okay, so one last thing. Remember when I told you that it becomes absurd? So in your
What is-
worldview, you just said that 2 + 2 = 5, so it's an absurdity. That's the point that I was going to go for. So
okay.
it doesn't even matter when it comes to that because you don't have a position, you don't have a knowledge. Okay, I grant you your ignorance. So if you
Okay.
cannot even answer their simple questions, I would recommend you to go find something that you can answer if 2 + 2 = 4. At
I mean,
even without
look,
minds.
I came here to debate abortion. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to have a debate with you on metaphysics. Okay,
That's fine.
Listen, if you want to concede the abortion debate about metaphysics, we
Okay,
can do
hold
that.
on. Do you want me to
today.
explain the like? Do you want me to explain? There's a fundamental difference between both of your two worldviews. So Emmett has what's called a theonomist epistemology. Our worldview comes top down, right? It comes so we start with the foundation of God, and then we like our come top. You do what's called you have an autonomous epistemology that your mind is the ultimate referent for whatever knowledge is. So in any type of metaphysical category.
I'll be back.
So the point where what the entailment of this is that you have to do what's called system building, where you go like, I don't know my metaphysics yet, but metaphysics are going to necessarily be tied to your epistemology, which is going to necessarily be tied to your meta ethics, right? These things are not like
Yeah, I know
philosophy
how
doesn't
these things
exist in a
can interplay,
vacuum.
Yeah, I understand that these things can interplay with each other.
No, not interplay. They don't exist in a vacuum at all. You can't distinguish any of them. Literally, it's not possible to actually
Well,
to
we can
actually
obviously
separate them.
distinguish them insofar as we can categorize them differently. But if what you mean is that obviously to have a holistic worldview, you're going to have to take into account your metaphysics, your metaethics, maybe.
Yeah, you have to
unless
have
you're
all
just
of
like a
them.
complete moral nihilist. And your what's the other one? Fucking epistemology and so on. I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying, look, like I came here because I thought that Mo's arguments against this other girl who was ironically called Ghost. Funnily enough, I didn't notice that until afterwards. Like I thought that his arguments were a little bit shaky, and I just wanted to bring about what I thought was a better account. Now, it could be the case that my metaphysics is cooked, but ultimately I am here to debate abortion, and I don't mind the conversation flowing a little bit.
That's actually
but
what I
like-
came up to talk about.
Yeah, that's fine. Like if you want to talk about abortion within my worldview in terms of my ethical view, then I'm more than happy to do that. But like, this idea that we're gonna like branch off onto like every single like, how do you know your meta
No, I'm not gonna.
epistemological
I'm not gonna go
foundation
into.
of
I'm not
all of
gonna.
reality? Like, okay, dude, like,
Well, I'm not gonna Socrates you and be like, "How do you know this?" I'm not gonna Jordan Peterson.
yeah.
What do you mean by that? I'm not quite sure. No, I'm not gonna do that
Yeah,
shit. But like,
exactly.
what does what mean? No, no. So I actually listened to the entire debate. So my question to you was, so your value is sentience. That's what you value, right?
Yep.
Okay. Can you do me a favor? Can you demonstrate that somebody whose brain doesn't work like yours doesn't think exactly like you do?
Well, what do you mean doesn't work like
Like
mine?
Down
I mean,
syndrome.
oh yeah, no, they're not going to think exactly like I do.
Demonstrate
but they are.
demonstrate that their thoughts aren't just like yours.
Yeah, what type of standard would you be looking for to demonstrate that?
However the fuck you could demonstrate it. You're the one who just said that that's different.
Well, I need to know what your standard of proof is. Otherwise,
Why do you need to know my standard of proof? It's your claim.
Because you're asking me to demonstrate something, but I don't know
It's your claim.
Through what lens.
Dude, it's your claim. I asked, can you
question.
demonstrate this is the case? That's why I asked you. Can you demonstrate this is the case? You said yes.
Yeah, inductively,
do
deductively, deductively.
However the fuck you want to do it.
Okay, yeah, sure. So inductively, it seems to be the case that the experiences that I have are tied to my ability to interact with the world in a certain way, right? Like that seems to be true from my own experience. And from that, I can look at other people, right? And in the same way, I can look at you and say, you're a person that's having a qualitative experience right now and interacting with the world. I can look at a Down syndrome person and say a similar thing, but I notice that the way they're interacting with the world is very, very different. From brain scans, we can see how their brains might differ from like, a more like typical brain. We can see how chromosomes can affect people's like, development and so on. And from all of this,
that's not answering to the question that I actually asked. You said, so you can demonstrate that their brain works differently. You can demonstrate that their brain works differently. That doesn't actually show that their mind works differently.
Well, I mean, if you take the view that like the mind comes from the brain in some way.
Yeah, I know. I reject that categorically. There's no way to demonstrate the mind is the brain.
Okay, well, I think we can make an inductive case.
That the mind. So you're saying the mind comes from the brain, or like the mind is what the brain does?
Yeah, it seems to come from the brain. Whether or not it's material or immaterial
so the mind is
a hard problem, but I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you take an action to be.
If the mind is what the brain does, then mind would be an action. It would be something. Well, it'd be doing something.
Well, in the same way that like an acorn does fall from a tree. I don't know if that's an action. I mean, sure, yeah, I suppose so.
But you're saying that the mind is the brain taking an action, unless you're a determinist.
Well, the brain is generating some type of experience. So I would say if you want to call that an action, then you can.
The brain is generating the experience?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, we can see that the
brain. Hold on. So my brain is generating my experiences right now.
That seems to be the case, yeah. Because when you, when
really?
you go on
shit that seems to exist, that it would still exist if I didn't exist. So how is my brain generating?
Whoa! That's not what I said. I didn't say that your brain is generating the physical world around you. I'm saying that your brain is generating your perceptual sense of the physical world around you, and it's generating your internal qualitative state. That's what I said.
Okay, so we're gonna move. So we're moving into empiricism.
Empiricism? I mean, I'm just saying that like it seems to be the case that we can make an inductive case that the brain at least has something to do with the type of consciousness that we experience, right? Like, do you disagree with that? Like, do you think that you, me, and a rock share the same level of consciousness or the same type of consciousness, or would you just say I have no idea? Wait, why the rock? No.
Because I can't. I can't demonstrate that the rock has a mind, but from my view, rock is a material thing. It's not a. It's not. It doesn't have personhood. It doesn't have ensoulment. That rocks don't have souls?
No, that they don't have a conscious experience. They might not have souls, but
you need to have a mind in order to have a consciousness.
What is a mind?
So from my view, the mind would be the immaterial part of from my view, persons. It would be the immaterial way in which we interact with the metaphysical.
Okay, and
or the means by which we do it.
So why can't rocks have this? Just because, I mean, it's immaterial, so a rock could have it, right?
If
you're asking me to demonstrate that a rock doesn't have a mind, I didn't make the claim that rocks don't have minds. I said
one second, guys. There's someone backstage. Natleo, can you give me like a peace sign or something to show? Your camera's kind of like wobbly or I don't see what it's pointing to. Can you like show yourself on camera? Just want to make sure that you're, person. You can turn the camera off once you come up stage if you want. Okay, I don't know. Their camera's out. Continue, guys.
So my question for you, Ghost, is have you ever heard of a condition called locked-in syndrome?
It does ring a bell.
Yeah, locked-in syndrome, as far as all testing shows, the person is effectively brain dead.
Okay.
But they're not. They're still fucking alive. They're conscious. They can think.
Okay.
They're aware of everything happening around
Sorry,
them.
just 1 second. Okay, Nat, I can see you. If you want to turn your camera off, you can come on stage. Just, try to keep the TOS, okay?
How do you know they can think?
Because there's people who have locked-in syndrome who have actually learned to talk again.
Okay, well, how do you know they could think before that? Like
because they said that they were conscious the entire time and they were aware of everything that was happening around them.
Okay, so
they had sense data and sense experience.
Okay, so you're saying that like they have testimony, obviously, of their own experience. Like they're reporting to you that they've had an experience, and obviously you believe them, which is fair enough. Now, I guess I'm just trying to figure out where the mind comes from.
The doctors who also treated them agree with them.
Wait, how would the doctors know?
I'm saying the doctors agree with them.
So the doctors just take their word for it without any evidence.
Well, no, it's not without any evidence. They've been asked questions like, like, do you know what the name of your doctor was? Because usually these people come in after like a car crash and like that, and they'll be brought into the hospital, essentially like to the doctors unconscious. They'll be brought, and like they'll be able to tell stuff like what the doctors were doing, who was my main nurse, who was my doctor. And most of them, they can't talk, but they learned another way of communicating. Like one of them, I think.
So how are they able to remember that? How are they able to? And you're going to say because they're conscious, and I'm going to ask you, well, how are they retaining certain memories? Because we know what parts of the brain are responsible for retaining memories. We know what parts of the human body are responsible. Like, for example, you said they remember the doctor's name, so they heard the doctor's name. So a sound went into their eardrum, bounced off their pinna, went into their eardrum, was interpreted through their cochlea, and sent as a signal into the brain. So this is the scientific process of what happens when we hear information. So
yes, very good. I can read some science textbooks too, buddy.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I didn't need to because I actually read it before. Okay. So so this is what happens, right? So I'm just wondering, you don't think that this has anything to do with the fact they can hear, though? You think it's just some magical immaterial substrate?
No, I think that the problem with this idea of the mind is what the brain does can't actually be demonstrated, right? And these people who, according to all brain scans, are fucking dead. They are literally brain dead. We don't actually know how many times that we've harvested organs of people who were still alive, right? Because of how complicated locked-in syndrome is.
What you're saying doesn't seem to be true, because I just Googled locked-in syndrome, and it says that it's a rare neurological disorder where a person is fully conscious and cognitively intact, but experiences near total paralysis. So it seems like the parts of their brain necessary for the conscious experience actually are intact. So can you find me someone that has reported having memories or some type of conscious experience that they can recall where their brain has been either not intact or severely damaged and then repaired or anything like this?
Yeah, so most of the people who come in with locked-in syndrome. Hold on, I think Nat Leo has a really bad echo.
Nat, you got a really bad echo. I muted you. Just unmute whenever you want to.
Make sure. Hold on, so real quick, Nat, if you join in the StreamYard, check if you still have. If you're on like a computer or something, check if you still have the YouTube stream open.
Right.
If so, close that out. That's a nice dresser.
Yeah. All right, continue.
So the people who usually locked-in syndrome is usually the result of somebody who gets into a traumatic accident, usually like car crash or falling off a building, something along those lines, right? And they sustain severe neurological damage. According to brain scans, they should not be able to have any kind of a conscious experience.
Okay, what brain scan are you referring to? Can I read about this?
Yeah, let me pull up some studies for you, or at least some. I'm not sure if I can necessarily find a study because it is a rare condition for sure, but
I'm just
Yeah,
wondering
but
what's
the thing
motivating this
is
view.
that the fallacy, the problem with the argument about the life begins at conception is that, uh, like it doesn't make sense. First off, the way that they start counting pregnancy, it's 2 weeks before actual conception. They start from the first day of your last period, number one.
Because
Number
we can't
two,
it's very hard to actually document when conception happens. Like
yeah,
it's hard to actually track.
I'm aware of that, but it only happens. The egg can only implant 2 weeks out of the 2 days out of the month. So most and fertilized eggs get washed out through a regular, the period process, unless it's those 2 days that they're fertile, and sperm can stay in the woman's body for 6 days and 6 days afterwards. So your idea that life begins at conception means that every woman that's ever had a period is a murderer.
That doesn't follow.
It
Yeah,
doesn't,
Yes,
I'm
it
not sure that
follow.
follows.
No.
I don't think that follows. Unfortunately, as much as I agree with your pro-choice position, presumably, I don't agree with that, because obviously, I mean, look, life starting at conception is just merely a scientific process. Just because it's hard to track, that doesn't necessarily mean the life doesn't start. And obviously, when it comes to murderers, I mean, having a period is just like a natural consequence of like your body. It's not something you can control. And obviously, if you're having a period, then you're not going to be like bleeding out a dead baby or whatever. So like, so none of this is really too much of a problem for the pro-life view.
It does, though, because if life begins at conception, that means that women that have natural periods, because and 1 in 4 pregnancies end in a miscarriage, by the way, and so where it doesn't implant pregnancy.
That's true.
And then there's also a time where it implants in the ectopic pregnancy, where that pregnancy is not viable at all.
It's also true, yeah.
When we say
Although-
that life
Hold on.
begins at conception,
So-
we're making a moral point on when this thing becomes an entity that is going to eventually become a fully formed human.
It's not even a moral claim. It's actually an ontological claim.
Well, yeah, I was taking the stance for this. I didn't
I get
go
what
too
you're
much in ontologically, but I was taking more of a biology stance on this, to not go into, religious ethics or that sort of thing. But
Can I?
so
Oh, sorry, you finish.
yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to press you on that a little bit, because it seems like you're saying, okay, human life starts at conception, humans are valuable because they're human, but then you keep kind of slowly hinting to this idea that the human will develop into something more. So what if we take a
fully
case where the
developed human.
Well, no, that's not ultimately. I think this is where I think Mo really messed up in his argument was. Humans aren't valuable because they're humans. Humans are valuable because they're made in the image of God. That's the distinguishing. That's from our
Well, I'm
worldview.
sure that's what he believes, sure,
in the distinction.
Well,
I think he just didn't want to invoke religion.
I didn't invoke. Yeah, I was putting that
You
aside
didn't
for
want to
this
do
particular
that
debate.
because I can bring up Bible quotes where they.
Oh my God, you're going to quote scripture at me that you don't have the authority to interpret and actually tell me how it was supposed to be interpreted?
Oh,
Good
I
job.
don't have authority to read the Bible.
No, you don't have the authority to tell me what the Bible's
bitter
supposed to mean.
waters. I don't have that authority. Okay,
No.
I love that.
This is
So-
why I
No,
wasn't.
I'm
this
sorry,
is why
you're not the apostolic
This is why I
historical
didn't
church.
bring it
Sorry,
up.
I don't care about your interpretation of scripture.
'Cause I'd have to get into all of this.
Yeah,
but we
it's
do
okay.
have
In the
someone
Old
backstage.
Testament.
Hold on. We do have someone backstage.
You can go ahead.
Welcome,
You can go ahead.
Elder Lion, to the show.
What's up? I'm here to no think Max. I need to learn from this panel. I need
Oh,
to.
okay.
Well,
Got it.
three people are really giving me this example of how to think, and I don't like it. We need more no think Maxing. Nat Leo, please continue.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was because you joined someone in. But basically, if you want to, equate, like I think Ghost argument is completely logical. He bases his moral worth based on consciousness, and he proves that by the biological explanation of when the certain synapses in your brain develop consciousness, and that's in line with the Roe versus Wade decision and viability and personhood.
Thank you. I've just lost so many brain cells that,
Based.
like,
I mean, hey, she's right about
enjoy
that
it.
one. Amen, sister. I don't agree with the
I
conception
enjoy it.
argument, but you're so right that my argument was based. I agree with you on that.
As a moral.
He'll take the win where he can.
If you're just defining everything as
except that.
moral because consciousness is kind of a reduction of like of retardation. But Rita, I'm really learning not to think, and I thank you guys. I appreciate you, Emmett. We're gonna make you a no think maxer soon. Stillborn, I think you think too much. I don't know if I can make you not think.
I have look, Plato and Socrates come to me and they're like, "Hey man, you want to go out thinking tonight?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I was thinking so much last night."
Yeah, it's the thinking hangover is pretty horrible. You
It's
gotta
bad.
get rid of it. Yeah. And Mo, one day you'll become a no think maxer too.
I
Everybody-
aim to achieve that one day in my life.
Yes, it's great.
Is this
It's
a similar?
awesome.
Is this like a similar like moral goal as like heaven maxing?
Oh god.
Well, it's well, the best example I could give it is I stumbled upon a person who gave me the philosophical like argument for Christian retard maxing. Like, stop thinking about it so much. Just do the shit. Go to church. Be a part of it. Stop thinking so damn much. So this is
Well,
what
I got a
this
guy
is
in
my
my
life.
chat. He says Plato told me
This
to think
is-
one time, so I
Yeah.
became.
So this is the life I
throw
live.
your thinking out the door, especially when you're
Yeah,
religious.
because
That
if I
makes
think
perfect
so
sense. That
much,
makes
I have to
perfect
no.
sense.
If I think so much that I have to justify the murdering of children, then yeah, I think no think maxing is probably
Well,
better.
look,
Hold on,
I mean,
hold on, a
like,
second, hold on a second. I
if
want to
you-
address what she
yeah.
just said. Hold on. Did you say that
Yeah.
like if you're religious, you just inherently throw out your ability to think?
Yeah.
Really?
basically.
Well, there,
You sure you really want to go down that road?
Well, no, we could stay with the prompt. Like, if you want to go down that road, I honestly.
This is
believe
open
that
panel. The
you
prompt's
can
out the
go
window.
very-
Well, real quick,
Yeah.
real quick. I mean, look, like you clearly are exercising your no thinking philosophy if you think that, that the conversation is reducible to just like, oh yeah, people want to murder children. I think that clearly,
yeah,
that
and they
there's a
use
nuance.
something
there's
stupid like consciousness to do that.
Yeah, they use something stupid like sophisticated, like philosophical accounts of
Sophisticated, okay.
identity.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
no.
super
Oh,
sophisticated.
no, I hate it when people use
Sophisticated.
like accounts of identity that I don't
Yeah, you know
understand
all
from
the big
philosophers
words.
I've
You're
never
really
heard
fancy.
of. I'd rather just keep not thinking. I mean,
You
keep it
got
up,
all these
Ray.
big
Doing a good
fancy
job.
words. Ooh. Oh wow, you're
I
so
mean,
cool.
I know.
You waste
But-
your
but-
time. You waste your time literally building your own coffin. It's really cool. It's really awesome.
Well, I mean, look, you can say that, but under my worldview,
Yeah.
I don't want rape camps
Under
where
your
women are
worldview,
forced to have sex to increase
under your
birth
world-
rates. Okay, so my worldview
Yeah,
is
no,
clearly more
who wants
flexible.
that?
He finds
Well,
he's
it's
trying to
Gentleman in
explain
those
that
views.
it's the equivalent of having rape camps. Because
Yeah,
you're
under
taking
your
women's
world,
bodily
under your
autonomy.
worldview, we could
That's
justify that
your
completely.
worldview.
It would be so easy. It'd be so
Oh
easy.
no,
to
under my
justify that in your
worldview, you
worldview.
couldn't because I have my own normative ethics. But maybe
No,
if
you
you
don't
were to
have any
take my
ethics.
meta
No,
ethics
You have
and then
nothing.
establish
You
different
have
ones.
nothing.
Now I
you
know
have
Hold on,
Emma's
hold on
gonna
a second,
jump
hold on a
in
second,
and
hold on a
be like,
second.
"Oh my God,
That
don't
rely on
Let me
Yeah,
address this thing that
preferences."
Ghost keeps saying. Ghost, hold on. Are
Yeah.
your ethics subject to change?
Are they subject to change? I don't know. It probably depends on like. It could be the case that my like sentimental attitudes towards certain moral scenarios could change. That's true. But I think that
Would
there
this
is
change be
something
based
quite
on what you
fundamental.
would,
in that.
so when you make this change, the reason you would
Yeah.
do that change is because the thing that you preferred, which you've been convinced out of, or you no longer prefer this thing. So now the thing that is moral is what you do prefer.
Yep. I mean, the morality would just be an expression of my value judgments, and if my value judgments change, then so would my morals. Yep, that's
Okay,
fine.
great. So I have a question for you. Do you prefer chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
I prefer chocolate, but
I
it doesn't
prefer
have
earth
any.
stomping toddlers.
Okay, that's fine. But one of them is a normative claim, and one of them is a.
It
is
wasn't
kind of like
there was
a-
no normative claim there at all. Where was the normative? Where did the ought claim come in?
Oh, okay. My apologies. So you're just saying that that's just something you like to do.
It's just my preference, and I should do what I
Okay.
prefer, right? I mean, like,
Oh, so now there's a normative claim.
I'm asking you. It's like, shouldn't we do what we prefer to do? Because that's what's moral. Yuck, yuck.
No, that's not my worldview.
Really?
No, you should do what I prefer. That's my worldview.
Oh, well, then I think, you should do what I prefer. This is now we're
Okay,
equals.
well, yeah, that's fine. That's fine by me. Again, this is like Emmett 2.0. This is just like, oh my God, guys, subjectivity means I can have opinions that but murder
subjectivity just
bad.
means to the
Like, yes,
subject.
this is not a smart reductio. Like,
No,
you
the
haven't
entailment is
blown the water.
the entailment
out
of subjectivism is
moral
that it leads to
thinking.
relativism. Relativism means that you lost the debate. That's what
Okay, you're
relativism
done.
means.
Like,
You know-
relativism leads to
You
chaos.
know,
Like, okay, I
we're
get it. but-
forgetting something. If you guys want to prevent abortions and the murder of babies, what we can do, and you guys don't care about bodily autonomy, we just force
No.
all men to get vasectomies. There you go. No abortion. Yay!
Wait,
No, hold on, there's a
we can
difference
just-
between-
We can just
Hold
put,
on, hold on, real quick,
wait,
Natlio,
if that
hold
is
on.
the case, wait. If that is the case, then it can be the case then that we just put you guys in cages instead, right? We put every girl in cage.
Yeah, we
so
could
they
just do
cannot
that.
have an abortion.
And that's what Mo wants to do, so that we can increase the birth rate.
Yeah, that's
They-
fine.
they
That-
proved-
this
they
fucks
proved
up.
the point.
You
There
see
you
how
go.
anything is fine in that case? So, like, you don't give a shit about bodily autonomy. I don't
You
give a
understand
shit
that
about
this is
bodily
how the
autonomy.
world
Move
works,
on the
right? There are
divorce.
people with all
point
sorts of
And
different
about
moral
bodily
views.
autonomy.
Wait,
Yeah.
guys,
Do we
guys,
understand-
guys,
hold on,
guys,
hold
It's your
on.
men
body,
are better
your
at
my
force.
choice
So- Do we
until it's
understand-
your own body.
Do we understand that might makes? Yes, absolutely, might makes.
Well, there you
Nobody's gonna disagree with that.
go. Okay. Well, that's what my point
No.
is. I don't really know what else is.
So since might makes, Ghost, would you agree with me that in generally speaking, men are stronger than women?
Yep.
Okay. So would you agree with me if with the proposition that men are the enforcement arm of society?
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, the
And
low
if
level
morality
enforcer.
is subjective, right? Let's say that, like the collective of men decide, you know what? No more rights for women. Fuck them. Put them in
Yep,
cages.
that's what happened. That's why abortion's illegal.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yep.
So what you're ultimately
Who the
saying,
fuck
though,
do
is
you
that-
think legislated abortion in the US? It wasn't a board of women, I'll tell you that.
No, so what
Yeah,
you're
and-
saying
and I
ultimately is
brought
that
up-
hold on.
I
So hold
brought
on.
up
I
the
wasn't
fact-
done talking. I wasn't done with the
Oh,
inquiry, lady.
God.
Shut up.
Oh God.
Anyways, so what the entailment of your position then, or Ghost, is that when the Muslims throw their women in grape cages, nothing wrong with that. It's what they prefer. Now you don't
Yeah, but it's
prefer
not-
it,
Yeah,
but
exactly,
they're not doing
yes.
anything actually wrong. You just don't prefer it.
Well, I'm a moral anti-realist again, so I don't believe in whatever the fuck actual wrongness means. I just have my own moral values.
But you're a more. Oh, no, this is the first time I actually heard you say that you're a moral anti-realist.
Well, I said that at the
Hold
start
on.
of the conversation, which you said you
So
were
I-
listening to.
I didn't. I missed like the first 5 minutes. I heard like the beginning
Okay.
of, or heard the beginning, or like right after the
I
opening.
actually said it
So real
later
quick.
into the conversation, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't hear that part. Anyways, Ghost, and real quick, ought we do anything ever?
Ought we do anything ever? Well, under my view, I would ascribe oughts, but that's because I'm assuming that we can at least share some type of value together, right? We share some moral intuitions, and
So-
through
so it's
that
just
we
the
can
appeal to
play off
consensus?
of like, huh?
So it's literally just the appeal to consensus. We ought do what most
Okay,
people want.
be careful here. Be careful here, because I'm not saying we ought to do what most people want. I'm saying that what most people want is what we will do. That's just a descriptive fact, because that's just how the majority works. But that
Really?
doesn't
Hold on. What
necessarily
most
mean that
people
it
want is
align
what
with
we
my
will do.
values.
Are you sure that's the case?
Well, that's how society gets built, right? If most
Really?
people
Because
have,
most
like, a
people in
set-
your country vote against mass migration. They don't want it.
well,
Why aren't we doing that?
well, with mass migration, like when I say
Why
that
aren't
that's
we
what
doing
most
that?
people want, well, the people in the country are not the people in power. Okay, so if you want to critique like the way democracy works, or if you want to critique the government, that's a completely separate criticism.
But you just said
But what
we
I-
will do what most people want. Most people don't want or want this thing to stop, but we're not
then
doing
take that up with the British government. That's not my problem. But
I
but-
just
but we're
demonstrated that
talking
your
about
claim doesn't fucking
morality.
make any sense, and it's actually
No, my
contrary
claim
to
does
what-
make sense.
what-
I
what
said
was
that
the rule.
morally, what people want is what they're going to think is all morally correct, like collectively, because that's just what most people think. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is actually true or false. It just means
then
that
by
that's
this
just
standard, hold on, by this
descriptively what
standard,
people hold
Then by
to.
this, hold on, by this standard, then we ought to ban abortion because most people in the world are religious. They're some kind of
I
theistic.
don't
would say.
appeal to the majority. That's not what my morals are built off. I'm just saying that's descriptively what people will do. Right? Most people liked slavery at one point, and
Hold on,
slavery
are they
was
doing anything
legal.
wrong? Are they doing anything wrong? If most
me,
people want
yes.
to get rid of abortion, are they doing something wrong?
How many people are going to come on the panel and just like be like, "Oh my god, morals are subjective"? Like, did you know that what your belief is that it entails that there are no objective moral facts? Like, no shit, Sherlock. How many times do I have to say I'm a moral anti-realist? I know that it's not actually fucking wrong. I'm saying it's wrong indexed to my preferences. How many times do I have to say this? I get it. Okay,
Hold
you
on,
don't
then,
like
hold on,
moral
Ghost.
anti-realism.
Why should I
get it.
care? No, this is what I was trying to get to. This is actually exactly what I was trying to get to.
Why should you?
Why
care?
should I
Because-
value why should I value your preferences?
Because if we share similar moral intuitions, then you might find my system
We
more
don't
intuitive to
share.
match
We
with your
don't
actual
share
values.
similar moral intuitions. So
Well, then
why
there's
should
nothing
I?
you can do.
So there's
How
no
the
reason
fuck
why
am I
I
to
ought.
convince
hold on,
you?
So there's no reason why I ought share your preferences.
If your view holds contradictions in your values that you find unintuitive, but you uphold them anyway, then I think that would be a good motivation. If you generally think that, hey, I like to
You mean
hold
like
to
yours?
non-contradictory moral, well, okay, well, if good luck pointing out a contradiction, because none of you fuckers have
I
done it so
did.
far. No,
I
you didn't.
did.
Not in my abortion arguments.
Property
not there.
rights. Ghost.
Yeah, that's not a
We did property
contradiction.
rights.
I pointed
You
out why
did a
that was retarded.
contradiction there. You
So it's a
literally said,
contradiction if Mo
I care
says that
about.
human life is valuable and then he
No,
kills someone out of
you s-
self-defense. Is that
you
a
said about
contradiction?
you said I care about
Exactly.
you said I care about protecting property rights, and then we went through that, and you said I don't care about property rights.
Hold on,
Okay,
Ghost.
so
Do
that's a
you
full-on
understand?
contradiction.
You know what
Generally, I care
hold on.
about property rights, but there will be exceptions to that.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Hold on,
You see,
Ghost.
you
You go.
see?
Hold on. That's
That's
not.
not a
I wouldn't say that's
contradiction.
not a contradiction. No, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold
Even
on,
this guy
Ghost.
on your side knows it's not a fucking contradiction.
But Ghost, do you subscribe to coherency theory then?
What, of truth?
Yeah.
I don't know. I lean more on the deflationist side of truth.
The what? I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time with the accent a little bit. What was the
Deflationary. I lean more on deflationary truth.
Deflationary? I've never heard of that one.
Deflationary truth is just like, you know, when we make truth judgments, we're not saying that it's either just because it's coherent or because it corresponds to a fact in the world. Like if I say the snow is white is true, that's just the same thing as saying the snow is white. Like it's just the assertion of the proposition. And then the snow is not white.
No,
would
no,
be
it's
the
not
same thing as
actually the
saying this.
same. So the saying the snow is white is true. That would be a meta epistemic question or a meta epistemic claim. It'd be a second order claim.
Yeah. Well, it depends what you mean by truth, which is exactly why you're asking me the
It's
question.
truth claim
and I'm
about the
saying
truth
that-
claim. So
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm leaning on deflationary, but I mean, you know, I don't hold to a specific theory very strongly. Maybe you can convince me of coherentism if that's a view that you hold.
I don't subscribe to
Uh,
I think it's a both
uh,
and of correspondence and coherent theory.
Wait, so what theory of truth do you hold to?
I just said it's a both and it's a correspondence and coherent theory.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said you don't hold to either of those. Okay.
No, I said it's a both and. You can't do either one independently because the problem with both of them are trying to account for the problems with the other one. So the problems with correspondence theory to truth is it literally is just kicking the can down the road. That which corresponds to reality is true. Truth and reality are those would be metaphysical categories. So it's just literally just presupposing a bunch of things that it doesn't justify. So coherence theory is saying, well, let's get the metaphysics out of the way first. So we need to come up with a coherent account for these things. But the problem with it is you can have a totally coherent theory that, you know, it's internally consistent, but it doesn't correspond to reality at all.
Yep, that sure. Yeah. So what is
I
your...
think it's both and. I think you need to have a coherent theory that corresponds to reality.
Okay, yeah, that could be the case. Sure. As I said, I don't have strong opinions on theories of truth and such. I'm just merely making the moral discussion about abortion because that's the topic that we can. And again, I don't mind talking about other things, as I said, but like, you know, like I'm being like good faith with you. Like I'm not prepared to have a discussion on like epistemology and metaphysics. So like I can explore with you a couple of the metaphysical and epistemological ideas I've had or whatever it may be. But ultimately, like the thing that I hold a more concrete stance on at the moment is my stance on morality and abortion and so on. Like,
well, okay,
that's the view that I came to.
The reason I want to ask, so you say that, and this is why I really think you need to get your metaphysics and your epistemology nailed down. So when you say morality is subjective, how do you know that that's the case?
Well, like, so it seems that whenever somebody tries to explain to me some type of objective morality, right? Obviously, it's not the case that we just have uncovered an objective moral fact scientifically, right? So clearly, that's not how
I would agree.
That
Objective you can empirically demonstrate.
So it's something else grounded in your metaphysics. If you're like an objectivist, so you know you could say that like it's just maybe you hold to some type of naturalism, or maybe you hold to, as you hold to, right? Maybe a more theological worldview. Now I understand that like, you know, the theological worldview comes with it all sorts of different arguments and parameters. But even if I were to grant like a lot of like your worldview, right, I could just say like, you know, like we need God, like God's a necessary being, like he's all this and he's all that. I still take issue with some of the moral sides of it that they just don't really seem to make sense to me. Like this idea of like, well, so you know, they're just the typical things that a Euthyphro dilemma and stuff like that.
The Euthyphro dilemma doesn't apply to my system because I know what. Yeah, it's an attack on divine command theory. Is something good because God said it's good, or is it good outside of God, and that's why He says so?
Yeah.
So that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem with divine command theory. But I'm not a divine command theorist.
I'd like to add on to his point about morality, because moralities are values based. They are by their very nature subjective. It's your own value.
That's not an entailment.
Their own morality. Yes, it is.
There's no entailment to the there's no entailment to morality entails it that is subjective.
Yeah, it is, because it's value judgment, and values are whether it's good or bad, and that is
Yes, can you have a standard for what's good or bad that exists outside of you?
Yes.
Is it logically? Yes. So then it would be if it exists outside of you, could you have one that's
Yes.
also universal?
No.
Why
Because
couldn't there be a universal
because
standard for what is
it's
good?
a group of minds that get together and they decide what is morally just, and then it becomes a law. Usually, that's how morals work.
Yeah, come on now.
I could agree with you. That might be how laws get passed, but no, that's not. There's no entailment that that for example, there's no entailment that people just get together and agree, and that's what makes things moral, or that's what makes things legal or not. Like I could agree with you that like that's usually how law works, right? Where it's like law is the enforcement of an ethical system. That's what it is.
Yes.
So, but there's no entailment to that might be how we practice it, or we like we what's the word I'm looking for here? That's how we what is the fucking term I'm looking for here for? That might be how we like impose it, right? But that doesn't actually entail that a moral system couldn't be universal and absolute and exist outside of my mind and outside of all minds or outside of all human
No.
minds. Like it could exist absent
No,
us.
because it depends on the culture. Because culture are groups of minds. and
Okay, so
subjectivity
morality is
is.
so we're
Can
doing
you let me
cultural
finish?
relativism?
Because you got really butthurt when I interrupted you.
That's
Can
fair.
I
All right, you know
finish?
what? All right, go ahead.
So my thing is that it's subjective by nature because they're a value-based subject. It's based on what's good and what's bad, and then it's always going to be mind dependent, whether it's a group of minds or it's a single mind. Because there's idiots like Nambla that believe that the children can consent, and with that same logic, you say you have the ability or the potential for consciousness. That's the same logic that PDF files use. They say, oh, well, one day when they're older, they'll have the ability to consent.
Yeah, so I would agree with you that Nambla just as evil as abortionist.
So, look, I mean, like, even if here's a difficult thing. It seems like even if I grant that God exists and that morality is grounded in God, there should be some type of deontology, and I just generally have problems with deontology because, like, I don't think that it very well accounts for the nuances of moral scenarios, and I think it goes very strongly against our moral intuitions. Now, you might say that that's fine. Who gives a fuck about your moral intuitions? Because this is just objectively the case. That's fine, but then you have to bite like all sorts of bullets. I think either that, or you have to admit that there is a lot about morality that we just can't access. Because it's not like God has listed.
Deontological ethical system.
Well, sure. I just asked that. First of all, what is your deontic system?
I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian.
That's not really a deontic system. That's just a religion.
Yeah, you are aware of the story of the bitter waters of the unfaithful wife and then forcing her to drink the bitter waters that would cause her to have an abortion. That is in the Old Testament. Did you know that story?
Yes, I'm very aware of that story.
Okay, let me put it like this.
So
okay,
in
like,
your own book, it says that abortion is A-okay. That doesn't make sense.
No, that wasn't the purpose of what that was.
Yeah, we don't need to go to scripture. I'm just trying to figure out that, like, look, you guys clearly got it sorted out. You have an objective moral system with like very rigid rules. So I'm just trying to figure out how you know about all of these rules. How many rules are there? Do they?
But they're inconsistent.
Sorry, I don't know. That's what I'm wondering. I'm just wondering.
They're inconsistent because abortion and murdering babies is A-okay in the Bible.
No, it's not.
I don't think the
Yes,
Bible.
it is.
From everything I've tried to find on the
I'll
Bible,
keep making this claim. I'm
like
going to have to address it. So the story of the bitter
Yeah, that's
waters
fine.
was to determine if a woman was unfaithful. The way that it went according to the Old Testament was that if a woman was unfaithful, she drank this this mystery fluid. The entailment of that is she would have a miscarriage.
That's an abortion.
Ooh, wait, you do?
No.
You hold to the miscarriage interpretation? Damn. Okay, because I speak to Catholics about this, and Catholics just reject the miscarriage interpretation. But if you accept the
reject
miscarriage,
Catholicism because Catholics
that's fair enough. But then that means if you accept the miscarriage interpretation, I'm just going to say, well, look, that's evidently like a type of abortion, like obviously, right? Like it's an induced miscarriage. Like that's essentially like.
Well, then here's the thing. Here's
Yeah.
the case. If it's the case that the woman does have a miscarriage, from my view, then guess what? She's knowingly killing her kid because she knew that she was unfaithful.
So you think it's
No,
okay?
she was forced to.
If I feed a woman poison because she's like, but it's only a certain type of poison that would kill her fetus. Is it okay for me to do that if I find out she was cheating on her husband? I can just like spike her drink with it.
I wouldn't say no.
You'd say that's you wouldn't say no that that's
Or I would
wrong?
say no. I would say no.
Oh, you would say that's wrong. So
That's what I meant.
the
I'm sorry.
only-
I realized I said a double negative, but I didn't mean to.
Okay,
I was
that's fine.
I fucked up saying I wouldn't, and I.
So
I
why
would
is
say
it
no.
wrong for me to do it, but it's not wrong in this scenario where God's done it?
So here's the entailment from my view is that what's good is grounded in God's very nature. So like the bombing of Sodom and Gomorrah, that was totally fine.
Grounded in its nature. Okay,
So
well,
hypocritical.
okay,
They're
that's
so
fine, yeah,
pro-life until it comes to
Good.
like the genocides in the Bible and stuff.
Yes,
Well-
God, what God does is good. That's the standard that I appeal to. Yes.
Okay,
Like
well, I mean, that just means
genocide
God
and
can do
killing all the
anything, yeah.
babies and smacking the babies into the ground and all that stuff. That's a-okay as long as God said so.
So wait, but under your worldview, you're making yourself God in these decisions. So how's that any better?
Yeah, that's way fucking better because my worldview doesn't account for like, saying
How's
that
it way
genocide is
better?
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
our
this is the thing,
worldview
right?
is
That's
that we
your
shouldn't be
imperfect
bashing
perception of it,
babies'
right?
heads into the ground and stuff
You
like
guys
that.
have
'cause
killed way
that's-
more people than God ever did in the Old Testament.
like many more
You
people
guys,
have been
whoa, I've never
murdered
killed
in
anyone.
God's name than anything in the world. Millions of people have been killed.
Oh, you mean like millions of
Holocaust is one of the
abortions yearly?
examples.
Wait, the millions of abortions yearly?
You want
Are
to
you
compare it
talking-
to the number of
You wanna
abortions,
care-
or even we don't even have to do abortions. Hold on, we don't even have to do abortions. We can actually, to make this even easier, there were more people killed in the Bolshevik Revolution than were killed in the entire accounting of the Bible.
Okay, well, you know what's funny
That's
though?
just because no
I might
people existed back
uphold.
then.
Like I might uphold the position that pro-choice, is more moral or whatever, and you might say, "Hey, that's not moral." But at the end of the day, I've never actually killed anyone. I've never like committed an abortion. I've never
You
done the
actively
operation.
advocate for it.
God has directly killed innocent children. Okay, so like you can't equate me to God. Like I've never killed anyone. I haven't even done an immoral act in your worldview, at least so far as
no,
like.
so here's the
killing
distinction.
people
For
is
one, from your
concerned.
guys' view, you think
Yeah,
that
and
when we
I've
die, we
actually
become harm
brought
to it. I
two
don't hold
people
that
in the
position.
world. I've actually got two up on God.
You
So-
have what?
What?
He had one person and then he crucified him. I've actually created two human beings,
That
so I've
person
got
was
two up
God.
on God.
In my view, that person was God. So
My kids are God? Weird.
no, the person that was crucified is God. Maybe you should try and learn their theology and if you want to argue against it.
I mean, look, like
It was
I
his
can
son
just
and God.
internally
I
critique the
know.
moral
It was
system.
he sacrificed the son so that he could. I can't even do it. He
No, that's not
sacrificed
the-
his
no, that's
son
not
for
the
the
position of
sins
Eastern
of the
Orthodoxy.
world, and
No,
which
that's not the
he.
position of
But
Eastern
he's all
Orthodoxy.
powerful, so he could have just done. He could have done anything he wanted, but he decided, oh, we're gonna sacrifice Jesus, and he's gonna
Not the
come back
position
in
of
a
the
couple
Orthodox
days.
Church, lady.
It's so dumb. And then think about this.
Oh my
Okay,
God!
why
My
was
retarded fucking
Joseph-
interpretation of Scripture is wrong, and then I'm gonna just assert that
You
it's
just
correct.
don't like
and
it
therefore
because
doesn't make
it's
sense.
wrong. You just don't like it because it's logical.
No, you're
just
no,
don't like
you're,
it 'cause
you're,
you're
mean.
no, you're giving
just
it a
upset.
totally incorrect interpretation of Scripture, and I actually have a historic church to appeal to for my understanding of the interpretation. They're the ones who fucking wrote it. Whereas you're just going, I'm going to read the book and determine what it means. How do you know that you have the correct interpretation of Scripture?
Anybody can read the book. You're just
That's
you
great.
Just have
Hold
to
on.
have,
Nat, you're not
your
addressing the
biblical
fucking question I just asked.
interpretation is
How
just
do you
po-
know your
interpretation.
interpretation of Scripture is correct? How do you know
Your-
that?
How do you know your interpretation is correct?
That's a great question. I don't appeal to my interpretation.
Yeah, I just read it as it's written.
Oh my God,
Because
great.
I
Got
have
it.
a brain,
I read this
and I
book,
can
right?
read scripture and I understand what it means, and I read
Bro,
the
you,
whole
under,
book.
yes, you understand what it means. That's great.
Yeah,
No, I'm so
but
happy
just
for you.
because
So I
your
read this
church
book called
has
Lord of the Rings,
taught
right?
you
In it, this
post-
little boy, he finds out that he's actually a wizard after some weird dude with no nose killed his parents. Then he goes off to some magic school. Oh, am I not interpreting this text correctly? Is that possible to do?
I don't know. I've never watched Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God, broad.
Okay, so real quick, I'm just trying to figure out. Okay, well, first of all, like, so you reject divine command theory, fine, and you say that good is a part of God's nature, which I just take to be a tautological error. So for me, when you say good, it just doesn't mean anything besides God. Like I don't see a distinction. Like when you say donating to charity is good, what you're just saying is donating to charity is God.
No,
So
what
there's no
is good is
distinction.
grounded in the nature of God.
And how is it grounded in the nature of God?
By his very being, what he is, the ontology of God, his nature is the standard.
That's what
for
I'm
is
saying. Yeah,
good.
so it would be the same thing, right? When I say donating to charity is God, that would be a correct statement because
I mean, sure, it would sound semantically weird, but ultimately, sure, it'd be fine.
Okay, so to me, this idea of morality is just like completely vacuous because good just loses all meaning.
It doesn't lose all meaning there.
Well, you're just saying it's God, but God has attributes, right? Like God is all knowing, God is all powerful.
Yes.
Okay, so you wouldn't just say like this is all just God's nature. You would say, look, like it might be a part of God's nature, but this is a distinct attribute. But being good is not a distinct attribute, so it's reduced to absurdity.
I'm not sure that would be it would be reduced to absurdity, even if that was the case.
Well, it would be like if I said to you, if you asked me like, like God is all knowing, and I was like, yep, God is all knowing, and then you asked me, well, what does that mean? And I said, it's just God's nature. But in reality, what I should say is, okay, well, God knows all things. Or if I say God is all powerful, I could say, okay, look, God has incredible potency, like he's able to perform all logically possible acts. And then if I ask you what is good, that is just God. Like, it just doesn't mean anything. Like, it's just reduced to absurdity. That's what I mean.
So by his very nature, the standard that I appeal to for when I say something, you would agree when somebody says something's good or bad, that's a value judgment, right?
Under my worldview, it is, yeah.
I would say the same thing. Well, something that's good would be a value. If I say something's good, I'm giving a value judgment. Well, if the standard that I appeal to for what is good is in the nature of God and the law and the commandments that He's given and the laws that He's passed down, the system that where the things that He's revealed to us, right? From my view, that wouldn't be incoherent to say God's nature, like good is grounded in the nature of God. He is the standard.
Well, I don't know what good is because you've just drawn a circle.
Well, so from my view, all worldviews are ultimately going to be all worldviews are ultimately circular, but
I mean, okay, but your worldview is viciously circular because
no,
you're
it's
just saying good
virtuously
is good.
circular. It's appealing to a necessary circle from my view.
So the necessary circle is that good is good. So you don't even know how to determine good from good because good is just good. Whereas at least in my view, I can say, well,
so
good
watch, I can
is
give you an
indexed to
example.
my
Do you
preferences.
know the distinction
and, like,
between a vicious and a virtuous circle?
yeah, like a virtuous circle would just be a circle that's necessary, and then a vicious circle would be one that's like
Yeah, right. Like, can you define words without using words?
Yeah, obviously, I agree that would be a problem. But the fact that like, okay, well, why is it not a vicious circle?
It's not a vicious circle because God is the necessary precondition for knowledge.
That doesn't have anything to do with like the question
God
of
is the
what good
necessary
is.
precondition for all
Are
transcendental
you
categories.
chatting with? What are you chatting with? I'm confused.
What?
Like is he chatting? Like he's responding to something? I must be not hearing somebody.
Oh, yeah, maybe she can't hear me. I don't know why.
No, I can hear you, but who are
Oh,
you
you can?
chatting with?
Oh, sorry, me. You can you can't hear Steelborn? The guy on camera with the sunglasses? Yeah, I
Is
can
he
hear him.
talking right now?
Yeah,
He
he
was.
was.
I was chatting back and forth with him.
Well, I don't know what this stupid gotcha she's trying to get is.
Okay.
It doesn't even make sense.
Oh, I'm gonna go, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt. You guys have
Okay,
All
a
right,
great
Nat.
evening.
Thanks for
It was
coming
a
up.
great debate, and I appreciate it. And hopefully, I didn't like ruffle too many feathers.
No, that's what
Thanks,
the
man.
after
Take
panel's
care.
for. No worries. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
I've
Bye.
learned a lot.
We've
Yeah,
all
so
learned a
it just
lot.
seems it seems to me that under your worldview, I just can't really get anything out of good. If you're not a divine command theorist, you can't even say like, well, look, God thinks that this action is like, good and that we should do it, because that's not what good means in your worldview. Good just means God, right? It's just part of God's nature, but it's not a component that's part of God's nature because it's defined as being God Himself. So to me, the reason I say it's viciously circular is because like there is no necessary component here. I don't see what the logical necessity would be of God being good. You might say that God needs to be the grounding for reasoning. Okay, fine. Listen, maybe I can't epistemically know shit without God, but I don't see what can you give me like, I don't see what would be wrong with saying that like God, it's logically possible that God does not have a good nature, but he's still maybe the necessary grounder of all truths. That doesn't seem to be a problem.
Well, at that point, I don't even know what good would be outside of the standard of
Hey,
God.
Well, I mean, I can tell you very easily what good is. Good, when I say good, it's an expression of a value judgment that's indexed to my preferences. So something that is good is something that I like and I prescribe with normative force. So if I say that, like, donating to charity is good, what I mean by that is that I approve of the action of donating to charity.
That would also be the case.
I want other people to do that.
Yeah, but that would also be the case if you were like the Calm Warriors of Papua New Guinea. That's good.
Wait, what do you mean that's good?
If you said, if from your standard, if I just said the Calm Warriors of Papua New Guinea is good. And that's
If
now
that's
it's
where
saying
I'm
something that
at,
I
you
listen,
guys have a
listen.
good one.
Yeah, that's
All
fine.
right, Elder, thanks for coming up.
could hold,
See you.
you could hold to that, but clearly when I communicate good to you, you know what's being said, right? Like when I say to you, like you might
Do you want
disagree
me to
with me
actually
on
want me to
abortion.
just real quick? Would you like me to actually try and find the definition according to the church? Like, see if I can give you something. I might just be struggling to.
Yeah,
explain
I
it
mean that's fine. I'm not trying to necessarily trap you in a dishonest way, but although it is a bit telling to me that you would grill my entire moral system, but then it seems like you're kind of struggling at the first hurdle here at just what good even means in your system, and it's fine. Listen, we're all, fucking students, right? It's fine. We're all trying to learn, so it's not a gotcha, but it's more that it's just I can't help but just feel a bit damn, this guy's grilling me hard on my system, but good is good when good is good is your system, and to me this is even less descriptive and even less useful. I'll agree with you, just as a last sentence, I'll agree with you that sure, my worldview does mean that some people can hold to some moral views that we find deeply uncomfortable. There is nothing I can point to say, look, it's wrong of you to be in favor of genocide, but I can at least describe
so
what is being meant by good.
Yeah. So so from the Orthodox Church's position, God is not merely a being that has moral opinions. God is understood as the fullness of being itself, the good itself, truth itself, love itself. So when we say God is good is grounded in God's nature, that we mean that goodness itself is rooted in what God eternally is. So things are good because they participate and reflect in God's eternal nature. God is not measured by a moral standard above him. God's grounded in God's nature means morality is neither arbitrary nor impersonal. So
that's fine. But that still runs into the same problem, you understand?
So the commands that God gives are this is why when people make the argument when they're could God create a rock so heavy that he couldn't lift it? Well, no, because it would violate his nature. Can God create a God more powerful than himself? That would violate his nature.
That's fine, but do you know why you say that God can't do that? That's because your understanding of what it means to be maximally powerful is to say that, look, God's nature is logical, and we know what logic is, right? We know what's logically possible. Things that entail contradictions wouldn't be logical.
Well, that's true. The things that entail contradictions, but you understand that logical possibility is actually that's going to be dependent upon worldview.
Yep, it might be dependent on worldview, and it could be the case that your worldview is the best account of logic, but it's not the best account of morality, because at least with logic, I can say, when you say all-powerful, which is an attribute of God, then I can say...
Okay, so what is good is when you align your will with God's.
Your will? So God could have a different will?
Well, no, so God's will, what God wills and what God wants, right? When I say want, you understand what I'm saying when I say what God's will is? If I were to say God's will, that
it implies
is
he has
what
some type
is
of
good.
freedom there.
Yes, God has free will.
So God has free will, but he can't choose to do things that aren't
that violate
moral.
His nature. No.
Well, how do you constitute it violating his nature? You're just saying that things are good because it's God's nature, and God's nature will always be good, but you're not really defining what good is, what the constraints of good are, right? For logic, I understand. You're saying God's nature is logical, but we know what logic is, so that makes sense. If I said to you, God's nature is for blah, 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 that doesn't mean fucking anything, okay? But because I know what logic is, I'm oh, okay, well, listen, I know what the classical laws of logic are, right? I can be okay, there's non-contradiction, excluded middle, fucking whatever the fuck, and then and you're telling me that these things apply to God. That's fine, this makes sense. But if you're saying God is good, good is God, God is good, these aren't separate attributes anymore. This just doesn't make any sense.
If I were to say this, that goodness is the expression of God's eternal nature.
What if I just said that logic is the expression of God's eternal nature, and then I didn't give you any? Okay, but then there's no examples of logic. There would be no description of what logic is. That would be the beginning and the end of the description of logic. You couldn't say to me that 2 + 2 is logical. That wouldn't really make any sense if you were to take that view, because by invoking logic, you're describing that there's some type of system or there's some type of definition behind what logic even is. But for goodness, there isn't. It's just tied so closely to God that it loses all semantic meaning.
No, so it would be the good, if you want me to say it like that. The good is God's will, ultimately. So, it's by the eternal nature that He's always had. What He is, it's literally It's not
Well, we're
separate
lucky.
from
We're
him. It's
lucky
not
that
just.
his
It's
will
not like
isn't to
distinct
want to
from
rape
him. It's
people, I
like
guess.
what God is and what God does and what God wills. That is what is good.
Well, you're saying that God is good as part of his nature, but then you're saying it's what God wills, which sounds like an action stemming from him.
Like creation. That's an action, right?
Yeah,
That's
but that's
from
not
our
God.
view.
God
Creation is
God
good.
is not his creation, right?
He's not
Like,
his
that you-
creation, but God's creation is good. Right? It's not inherent. God's creation is not evil.
So would you agree that I have free will?
Yes.
Okay, and my actions are separate from God,
Your actions would be separate.
but my actions can be good, and good is defined as not being separate from God. So I'm not really sure what it would even
No,
mean to
good
say
is
my actions are good.
no good. So for us, in order for us to participate in the good, that would be we align our will with God's.
We align our will with God. Okay, I mean, this doesn't really get me any closer to like not only understanding what good and bad really means, but understanding why it should
So
be
bad,
objective
so
and
bad
why
or
there would
evil would
be.
be the privation. So from our view, evil has a negative ontology.
But this doesn't seem to drive any normative force. Like, even if I granted everything that you're saying is true, I could just say, well, look, I don't want to align my will with God. Why is that objectively wrong?
So from my view, you're denying the eternal standard. You're
Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Doesn't make it objective just because it's an eternal standard.
No, objective would be it's just mind independent.
Well, I mean, it's dependent on God's will.
No, it's not dependent. It's not dependent on God's will. Oh my dude, I don't get why you don't understand this.
You said that.
It's
You
not
said it was
dependent on his
God's
will. No, I said God's will. What God wills is good because by his nature, what he wills is good. He
Fine,
is
I mean,
the standard.
This sounds like a
he is the
semantics
standard.
difference, but
It might be. We might just be talking past each other. I don't know.
Well,
you're
look,
saying that this standard is good, but I
guys.
just don't know what good is. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
So there's no good time to do this, but this has been a good conversation. But I think this is probably a good time for me to skedaddle myself.
Are you frozen? Is he frozen?
Yes, that's also another reason to skedaddle. My camera has decided to betray me. I don't know how much more of this betrayal I can take.
Can I ask you one more question, Mo, before you go? I don't mean to like spring this off down a whole other rabbit hole, but I just want to get your answer to one moral dilemma I had in mind, but I never really got the opportunity to bring it up before.
One moral dilemma. Okay, shoot.
So, okay. So obviously we take the view, under your view, that like all human lives are equally valuable, right? From conception to 90 years old, like they all hold equal value.
They have. I guess you'd
say
say they have an intrinsic value. Yes, of them being human.
So I'm just trying to establish like what exactly, how do we stack this against each other? So let's say that we have a fetus, right? That from conception, it has a condition where it's guaranteed to die within a few weeks. So it's definitely never going to develop any conscious experience whatsoever, right? Would it still be wrong to abort that fetus because it's a human life, even if it's going to cause physical and psychological distress? But it's guaranteed to never have any awareness.
You're baking. Well, a few things. You're baking in the physical distress. That's one thing. You're baking that into the.
Okay, fine. Let's just say there's no distress. Let's just say she just wants it out of her body because, like,
you could just grant it. You can just grant that it bakes into the distress. Yes, it would still be equally wrong to intentionally destroy an innocent life. So for like the same example of like, if my wife's dying of cancer, right, and like it's like a guarantee, like it's terminal, right?
Yep.
Is it okay for me to just walk up and just like fucking just like take a knife and be like like a fucking bunch of times and just like stab her in the eyeballs?
Yeah, no, of course not. But the thing is, right? So okay, so to map this onto a real example, there's a real condition called a partial molar pregnancy, which you can look up. Right?
I know. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, if you're aware of this, right? Yeah. So for those that don't know in the audience, it's basically a condition where like a fetus develops with too many chromosomes, so it can't develop properly. And it's I think the longest that one has ever lived is about 15 weeks. So they're basically cooked. So I'm not just giving an unrealistic hypothetical.
Is that post birth, or is it like 15 weeks post birth, or?
No, like during pregnancy. Like,
okay,
like
that's what I thought. Yeah, so it's not a viable.
It's
not a viable pregnancy.
Yeah, so it's not a viable pregnancy, but what it is an innocent, unique human life. That is what it would be under science, right? So, and under your worldview, obviously, that's what you're interested in protecting. So obviously, the first question is, are you okay with aborting it? And you said no, that wouldn't be okay, right?
So there's different scenarios, right? So like, look, this is one that I've tackled with. I don't actually I don't have my position fully fleshed out in here. Like if you were to steel man my position, right, as the pro-lifer, who, so the reason that I value human life in the moment of conception is because that's when I believe ensoulment happens, and man is made in the image of God. So that person's just as valuable as I am, and they're equal in their status to me. So like the ectopic pregnancy question has actually been something I've wrestled with for a really long time, because like from my view, the baby, even though it's an ectopic pregnancy, has equal moral value to the mother.
Yeah.
And it's innocent. So it's like I know both sides of the argument for how to justify the ectopic pregnancy abortion in that scenario.
Yeah, and that's fine. And obviously, ectopic pregnancies are like cases of a medical emergency. So if you wanted to draw an exception there, I'm not necessarily going to call you hypocritical, because look, I mean, there's a high chance that the mother will die, and in an ectopic pregnancy, that baby is going to die anyway.
No, in the ectopic pregnancy, if nothing's done, there's a guarantee that both die.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like I think
it's not even pretty much. There's literally, as far as I know, there's no exception.
Okay, fair enough then. I thought there might be some cases, but I know that ectopic pregnancies are incredibly dangerous. So fair enough, right? But I'm saying that in a partial molar case, right, we're talking of a case where the woman could just let it naturally miscarriage, right? And maybe there are physical and psychological traumas associated with this. Maybe there's not. Maybe she's perfectly sound of mind or whatever. But the question is ultimately, right, she has this thing growing inside of her body that's causing her some level of discomfort. Like she wants to abort it. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, it's not a medical emergency. Should she really be forced to endure the pregnancy?
I'm not
for like
quite
15
sure that
weeks?
it's a person, though.
Hey, I agree. Listen, buddy, amen. Okay, personhood is consciousness. But if you subscribe to
No,
those
I don't.
views,
I don't. I don't
personhood
grant
is,
that either.
well, then what do you mean person then? I mean, it is a human life under every standard of science. So
I'm not
So
sure.
look,
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. So I feel like-
just kind of give my answer. Like I don't. I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't have like all these edge cases fleshed out perfectly. I would say in a situation like that where you would have the endangerment of the mother, I mean, her life is valuable too, so you have to take that into consideration.
what if her life
it
isn't
was
in danger?
so
though?
whatever. Well, under the example you gave, it sounds like it's guaranteed, right? Almost.
But no, so,
No,
so,
that
so,
was
so
mine,
an
that was
example-
mine.
yeah, there was a mix-up. So ectopic
Okay.
pregnancies are very dangerous, but in my example was a partial molar pregnancy.
Well,
It's fairly
so let
safe.
me address, like, I guess
yeah.
that one, the more dangerous one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be it's a situation where even if you're killing someone, and it's or well, no, in that scenario it wouldn't even necessarily be a person. So you
no, that's
would
the
put
problem,
value.
though, Mo. It is.
I thought you said it wasn't in the
No, the molar pregnancy is where I was questioning whether or not it's a person. The
Molar,
ectopic
molar.
pregnancy is a person.
topic. Okay, got it. So in the case it's a person.
It's just when the baby implant. It's when the fetus.
And that's the one that's the
implants in
dangerous one,
fallopian
right?
Tubes.
And that's
Yeah,
the one
the
that's the
ectopic.
dangerous.
It implants in
so-
the fallopian tubes instead of in the
Yeah, I
uterus.
get those confused going back and forth. But anyway, in that case, then yeah, you would have to make it by case basis, right? Yeah, it would still be a tragedy if you're going to try to save the mother or the child. It's one of
I'm
those
more
edge
interested in the
cases.
partial molar case, though, because obviously ectopic pregnancies are easy for a pro-lifer to defend. But I think I brought up the partial molar case because I think it's harder for you to defend, right? Because if you hold to the view that personhood is the same thing as human life, right? It's undeniable. I mean, like, maybe this guy disagrees with personhood. Okay, stillborn, but ultimately, right?
Well, I would
like,
disagree
look,
with
I mean,
your definition too.
yeah,
but
well, look.
No,
I mean,
he's talking about whether or not the molar pregnancy is a person, and the reason
yeah, a
that
partial molar pregnancy is a unique human organism that is part of the Homo sapien species,
Right.
and this is
Well,
well
this would-
established by science.
But this
right?
would go into my argument of what is or the future you're robbing, right? From a moral standpoint.
Okay, so you do care about potential, because before you made it sound like you cared about the intrinsicness of human life, but now it sounds like
I
that can be
do.
thrown out the
Well,
window
why
if there's no
can't?
potential.
Why can't I care about both?
Because you have to either care about the fact that human life has intrinsic value, and also you care about its future, or
Well, look.
you only care
Well, no.
about its
Okay.
future.
Well, look.
So I'm
You
just trying
can
to figure it out.
No, because this is consistent. Because look, there's such, in my opinion, there's such a thing as justified wars, right? So
Yeah, fine, fair enough.
it's still a tragedy of a human life being lost, though, right? It doesn't remove that aspect of it.
Okay, but the question is, legally, should she be allowed to abort it, right? Let's say you have two scenarios. You have one woman that just has a perfectly normal, healthy pregnancy. There is a reasonable likelihood that if she doesn't abort it, this
Well,
baby will be born
you can
and it
have
will be
unjust
fine.
laws, so I don't know if we go like legally is
Okay, fine,
kind of
but
a
you
murky
would
waters.
you would presumably advocate for just laws, I would imagine, right?
He's
So- so
asking
I-
if you could, if it's if it could be ethically permissible to abort in the case of a partial molar pregnancy.
That's my question. Yeah.
And so here's where I would actually, I think the answer that I could give might be consistent. I could be wrong here. This answer could be inconsistent, but I think it's not. So so what a molar pregnancy is essentially, it yes, it is true that it has human DNA, but it's actually more closely related to cancer than it is to a human being, because cancer also has human DNA and human cells. So so in like the
That's
case of
right.
a molar pregnancy, it's not. I'm not sure it's actually like a
But it's
person.
a
'Cause I wouldn't
separate
say
human
I wouldn't say a
organism,
tumor. No, I wouldn't say a tumor is a person, right? But
so
it
why
is
is
true
human
that
life a conception of human life, but cancer isn't then, under your worldview, where you defend human life?
because so what cancer cancer is it shares human DNA, but it's actually the cells are essentially corrupted, right? Like they're not they're usually either with cancer the cells are
Yeah, it's not a human organism though. Just because something has human DNA doesn't make it a human organism, right? Me and Mo both agree that human life starts at conception. And in a partial molar case, like that is a case of human life starting at conception. We're not talking about like cancer cells that technically have like human cells, but that it's not like a separate human
that's
organism.
what the
We're
case
talking
with
about
that's what a
genuine-
molar pregnancy is.
Well, like a molar pregnancy is still like a molar pregnancy, a partial molar pregnancy is mainly a case of chromosomal development, but it's still a unique human life, right? That's just an undeniable fact, right? And if you want to say that like that there's a problem here because of like cancer or whatever, that's fine. But this is a problem for your guys' worldview, because my worldview is crystal clear. I care about personhood, which is psychological continuity, okay? And this fetus doesn't have it, whether it's partial molar or not, so you can abort it. But for your worldview, it feels like you guys are kind of stammering around the place, because it's just like, okay, well, I care about human life, but some human life might be cooked. It might be too cooked for me to care, so I care about the future development of the life. But then I also care about both. It's not just the future development of the life. So it just seems a bit all over the place.
But a partial. Okay,
No, all
hold
I'm
on.
saying
Wait.
is that I just don't have my answer flushed out on this one and
A
ectopic
partial
pregnancies, like-
a partial molar pregnancy is not a viable organism, correct?
When you say viable organism, it's not a viable
It's-
pregnancy, which
It's not going to
but
become.
it's
It's not going to have a future, right? It's not going to develop into a fully like a formed human, correct?
no, but a child with terminal cancer isn't either. But you would still say it's wrong to kill them.
Well, yeah, I would in that case, because then that goes into who are you to decide what is a worthwhile life or not, right? But that's a different argument. So
Okay, fine. So then you would commit to the view that killing the partial molar is wrong, if that's the case, because we shouldn't be deciding what worthwhile life is.
but if
That's
it's
fine
not
you
a
wanna commit to the
viable
view.
organism, then it's not contradictory.
Well, I don't know what a viable organism is. I mean, it's a living.
If you
human
leave it
organism that's
alone, will
growing.
it turn into a fully developed human?
A fully developed human? Maybe not, but
Okay.
it will develop and grow. And like, I mean, look,
And
like,
if
like
they in this
child
case, it would
isn't a
kill
fully
the
developed
mother.
human either.
Correctly, correct? It would kill the mother.
No, it wouldn't kill the mother. You can just like have the miscarriage, and it would just be like an.
No, I'm
so-
saying I'm
so-
saying I'm saying
I
if
looked this up. So the partial molar pregnancy is actually a very serious medical condition, where the pregnancy develops abnormally due to chromosomal issues.
right.
In most cases, the fetus is not viable. The placenta develops abnormally, and the condition can seriously
That's
endanger
right.
the mother, including risks of hemorrhage and progression into
Right.
gestational trophoblastic disease/cancer.
Yeah,
Right.
there are some risks associated with it, but from my understanding of reading about partial molars, there are risks in every pregnancy, right? Even viable ones, but ultimately, like a partial molar one, I think is generally not super dangerous. Like there are risks, but I think partial molars are not as dangerous as like fully molar ones. I think.
Yeah. So do you? I can actually give you the church's position on this.
Do they have a position on partial molar abortions?
Yes, the Eastern Orthodox Church actually does.
Oh, perfect. Okay, what do they say?
So the Eastern Orthodox position is human life is sacred from conception. Abortion as the elective destruction of innocent life is condemned, but medical treatment aimed at saving the mother in cases where the child is non-viable or already dying is treated differently than elective abortion. In the case of a partial molar pregnancy, many Orthodox ethicists and priests would likely view removal of the pregnancy as morally permissible or even necessary. Because the pregnancy is ordinarily not capable of developing into a viable birth, the mother may face serious danger. The intent is not the destruction of a healthy, viable child, but treatment of a pathological and life-threatening condition.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
would become down to the
Um,
intent. That's where I was going.
Yeah,
with it. That
intention
was my-
is very important in
Yes,
Orthodox.
the
theology.
Okay,
intent.
fine. So because okay, the thing is, right, is I'm trying to uncover a certain moral belief. Okay, so I understand that, like, listen, maybe I'm wrong about partial molars. Maybe they're more dangerous than I realize. But if I could just stipulate to you a hypothetical where, like, let's just say that we have a fetus that isn't going to cause any problems and there's not going to be any risks with miscarriages, but it's going to die guaranteed in 10 weeks. I just want to know, in a case where there aren't any risks, is it okay for her to abort it, or would you say she has to put up with the pregnancy in that case because there are no medical risks? Because the church
Wait.
is invoking medical risks, right?
Say that one. Say it again.
So in a case where let's just imagine that there was a partial molar pregnancy that didn't have any health risks, just for the sake of argument, would it then be okay?
That's a contradiction.
Yeah, but I'm saying for the sake of argument, okay, it's not a contradiction.
Well, it's a category error then. It's either a category error or a contradiction. Like,
I'm saying, let's imagine the condition. Come on, dude. Like, this is not a category error or a contradiction, because I'm saying that, like, let's imagine a condition similar to a partial molar pregnancy, insofar as the baby will not develop properly.
No, I get you're trying. I get you're trying to get the hypothetical out, right? But look, it's also you're creating a hypothetical that doesn't exist.
That's the point of the hypothetical.
No, but what I mean is, it's not. It's contradictory in what the case we're talking about here. It's not really.
What's the P and not P?
It's a molar pregnancy that's not dangerous.
Yeah, it's a molar. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, and look.
I'm gonna give you non-dangerous liver cancer.
Yeah.
That even makes sense. Like,
yeah, okay, fine.
So
fine,
I'm not wording this
I'll
properly
just change
because
it.
it's late.
Listen,
What I'm saying
fine.
is the hypothetical has to make sense. It has to make logical sense.
Okay,
is what I'm
I
trying to
agree
say.
with you. Okay, first of all, do we agree that we can invent medical conditions for the sake of a hypothetical, or do we think?
Yes,
that
but it
they
has to
be
make
real?
sense. It has to make sense.
Sure. Well, making sense is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, right? I feel
It
like
has
this
to
is
make
just
logical
adopted my
sense.
hypothetical, right? I'm just saying that let's just say that there is a fetus that is guaranteed to miscarriage in 10 weeks, and it doesn't pose a medical risk to the mother. I'm not referring to partial molar pregnancies. I'm just saying, let's just say that there is a case where the fetus
okay, got it. So it's a
will
guarantee.
miscarry.
We know that there's going to be a miscarriage.
Yeah,
for
but otherwise it's
reason
not going
X.
to pose any risk to the mother. Is it okay for her to abort it, with her knowing that there's going to be a miscarriage anyway in 10 weeks?
Instead of 10 weeks?
Yeah, let's say in 10 weeks, she knows that 10 weeks from now, before there's any conscious experience emerging, that it will die on its own anyway, and she doesn't want to put up with the pregnancy for elective reasons. Should she be able to abort it? It's a yes or no. It's quite simple.
I'm sorry, I was reading my chat. So we know that it's a non-medical emergency, but it's also non-viable, and we know that we have a guarantee that it's going to miscarry at week 10.
Yep.
Okay, baking your hypothetical is a lot of knowledge. It'd be really hard to actually
That's
justify
fine.
in the real world.
It's easy because it's a hypothetical, so you don't need to worry about.
I'm not sure that I could say. I'm not sure that from my position, I would say it. Not sure it'd be okay to abort, but like, I think honestly the best category to put this in. So Orthodoxy has a category for things like this, so we call them moral tragedies. Where it's like, it's not good, but like it's not the same as murder, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Like I'll give you an example. So if let's say somebody is like severely mentally impaired, like they like severe Down syndrome or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And they are holding what they think is like a Nerf gun. Like they just think that's the case. Except it's not. It's an actual gun. And they're pointing and shooting at people, thinking that it's a Nerf gun. Like let's say there's an officer there. The officer would be justified in taking out this person, even though they're not intending to actually do harm.
Yeah, as a
So, so we would,
preventative
yeah, so we would
case
call
or
that
whatever, sure.
a moral tragedy.
I agree, but the reason why that's justified is because the Down syndrome person is causing harm to others. But in my hypothetical, the fetus isn't causing harm to anyone. So you should just be saying, I don't know why it's so hard for you guys. You should just be saying, no, it's an elective abortion that causes no harm to the mother. Seen as it's an innocent human life, it's wrong. That's
I mean,
what you
well,
should be
considering the
saying.
fact that
I
abortion
don't know why you
does
guys
cause
aren't
harm to the
jumping on
mother.
that and just saying
Well,
that.
no,
I don't know why you guys aren't just
would
saying that.
my answer to that very specific hypothetical that you pose here would be that it would be something to discuss privately with a priest for this very weird edge case. And I would also say, okay, you brought me the strongest case, you know, a non-viable chromosomal abnormality, right? That becomes cancer eventually. So if I
not
grant
this one,
all,
but-
Okay.
no, not in this one. I'm talking about the one
Well, then
previously.
your
So
standard of human life
if I
must fall
grant
apart, at least a little bit.
if I
You have to
grant
add
no
more
it
qualifiers.
doesn't. If I grant you all of these cases, now you have to defend all the other 99.9% of the cases.
That's what. Listen, I can defend all the 99.9% of the cases, but if my 0.1% edge case dismantles your worldview, right?
doesn't.
Then that's a problem.
I don't think it does. I think I literally just explained that it could go into a category like a moral tragedy.
Well, it's not a moral tragedy because the example you used is where a Down syndrome person was causing harm to
I'm
others.
saying
but in
that's
this
just another
hypothetical, the
example
fetus
of the
doesn't.
okay, I'll give you another example of the category. If a woman wants to get let's say a pregnant woman finds out that she has cancer.
Yeah.
From our view, her getting the chemo, we would say she should get the chemo treatment, even though there's a high likelihood that it'll kill, that it'll kill the baby. We would call that a moral tragedy, right? Same thing with the ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah,
The
that's because
orthodox
she's
position,
experiencing harm.
the orthodox position, the ectopic pregnancy scenario though
You're not
too.
engaging. You're not
I am
engaging
engaging
with
in
the
some
example.
So the ectopic, okay, so
The hypothetical is saying that there's no harm to the mother. You have to understand, like that's.
there's
that's
no
the
wait, there's no
example.
harm to the mother.
Yeah, I'm saying that let's say there's a pregnancy where there is zero harm to the mother. She just wants to abort because I don't want a baby inside of me. That's her only reason. There is zero health risks again, right? But I'm just saying that like the fetus is guaranteed for whatever reason to die in 10 weeks anyway. Maybe there's just some mysterious hypothetical.
I would say no. I would say no in
right?
that. I would say no. Can I pose you a hypothetical though, just because I'm curious?
That's fine, but I just get a clear answer on that because this was leading somewhere and we just took a while to get here, right? You think that would be wrong, right?
At that point, yeah, it'd still be intentionally
Okay,
killing a living
and
being.
Mo, you also think that would be wrong in this?
It goes down to the intent. Like when you clarify that it's no harm to the mother, then yeah, that would change my answer. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what I'm trying to figure out then is like, what would be worse, like the killing of like a 5-year-old child, or the mother aborting this like non-viable pregnancy that's not going to cause any harm to her body?
So we're not utilitarians. So people's intent plays a massive part into this. So here's what I would say. Like, okay,
I'm not a
so I'm sure-
utilitarian either. That's fine.
I know, but I'm saying so. Like Mo and I, the position that we would hold, like we wouldn't. I don't think at least I know. I don't think I know I wouldn't, but I don't think even Mo would be in favor of like, okay, women, who were like from our view deceived into thinking that there's nothing wrong with getting an abortion. It's not a person. They didn't think that they were killing somebody. I'm not sure we would not want to retroactively punish them for that.
Well,
No.
I mean, they
But, like,
obviously
if
do know
somebody-
that they're
but
killing
from our
somebody,
view,
'cause
hold on,
that's what
but from my
happens in an
view-
abortion.
But from my view, right? Let's say somebody was fully aware that what they were doing was murder. They were doing it intentionally. They were going and getting abortions just for the funs of it, just for the fun of it. They would just go get pregnant for the fun of it, just to get an abortion. Lock that bitch up. She's fucking psycho.
So so you know what?
Well.
I actually, well, maybe they're locking up, right? But I actually agree. Listen, I am, you know, like I lean more on virtue ethics than any other normative theory, and I actually
You should
agree
really
with
look
you.
into Eastern Orthodoxy then.
Well, I prefer, you know, I actually prefer like care ethics and Michael Sloat's view. I think that I find that to be much more intuitive because I think that orthodoxy and like other types of religious beliefs, one, you have a kind of epistemic problem of like accessing all of the norms because even now, right, like I can kind of reason my way through my morals based on my prior intuitions, whereas
Well, we
you
wouldn't
have
claim
like,
to have access to like we wouldn't claim to have all access to that, but
no,
we
I
can
know,
still
but
use
it
our
means that you don't
reasoning.
always know how to like. Well, it's hard to use your reasoning because you run on deontic system. So like you know, you just have to ask yourself like, does this violate a rule? And if you don't know the rule for that particular scenario, then there is no reasoning to reason through. So I find that to be unintuitive. But regardless, like we can come back to that in a second, like if you guys want to. But I just wanted to like just to land the plane here on my point though. Like, sure, you might not be a utilitarian, right? But I'm sure you would at least generally agree, right, that if it was a choice between a billion people or one person dying, that even though both are tragic, that it is preferable for one person to die over a billion. Like, you'd probably at least say that.
I could grant that.
Yeah, or like if I were to like genocide 10 million people, like that's worse than me stabbing one person, even if I'm bad in both cases.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm trying to figure out then, right, is that in the case where it's like the elective pregnancy, I would say that a woman that's kind of like, killing the fetus here, like just purely electively, her reasoning is just that she doesn't want to be pregnant and she wants it out of her body, right? Like, I don't think that she's doing something as wrong as killing like a 5-year-old child.
I think I would tend to agree with you though. But I think Mo would too. I think I tend to agree with you. It's not the same as like walking over and like curb stomping a toddler. But
now the question is, if we look at immoral actions, like now, obviously, listen, I also struggle to separate actions from their actors, because again, if we take a virtue ethics perspective,
intent is important here. Intent plays a massive
I
factor.
agree. I agree that the intent is important, but what I am wondering though is that we can still acknowledge actions as being bad, even if we don't necessarily put normative weight on them. Like, for example, like if an earthquake kills 10 million people, like we can still call that a tragedy and bad, even if we're not necessarily calling it a moral wrong because there's no normative whatever, right? Now, if I were to ask you, like, what would be preferable, right? Either, and again, you have to excuse me for like the extreme examples here, but like I think this is really the test of your moral consistency, right? If you were to ask me what's worse, like a child gets like sexually abused or killed, right? I think these are both horrible, but I think that being killed is worse. I would say that.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah, okay. But then if you asked me, is it worse for a woman to have an elective abortion or for a child to be sexually abused? I think it's clear that the sexual abuse now is much worse. And we're not just talking about the intents of the actor, just the pure act itself, the outcome of a zygote dying versus a child being sexually abused without even looking at the agents. Clearly that one is worse. And I think that that's because my moral intuitions on personhood and consciousness are far more intuitive than yours. So I don't know how you would account for that.
I'm not sure. I feel like so from my view, I feel like honestly, I could kind of call these somewhat equal.
Okay, so you would say that it's equal. Like if we had like the IVF clinic, right? You've got like 10 frozen embryos and then one child in the other room. You think it's preferable that the 10 embryos be saved rather than prevent that child from being abused by a predator?
So I'll tell you. I'll give you my reasoning for this.
Cool. Listen, I'm not saying
let me
you're wrong.
explain. I'll
I'm
explain.
just
I can
saying,
actually explain.
ooh,
So
that's
from
what
my
I'm
view,
saying.
so you gotta remember, from my view,
Yeah.
the embryos are people. Like those are persons.
Mm.
And the distinction is and I actually rather go back to the abortion example. So the abortion versus the child grave. With the abortion, that baby has absolutely no chance of recovery because there's no recovery from death. Now, would I agree that the child is going to have some serious fucking problems, right? Absolutely. But there's always the possibility of recovery.
Okay, but ultimately, right, you do think that if a fetus is going to die, like if a kid is going to die in 10 weeks, it's not justified for me to kill them now, even if I know they're going to die in 10 weeks, because killing them now is depriving them of those final 10 weeks. They're an innocent person, blah, blah, blah. So similarly, it must also be wrong to kill a zygote or a fetus or whatever that's going to die in 10 weeks, right? These must both be wrong. Now, what I'm saying is that, like, okay, so like, are you saying that, like, let's say there's a child and a fetus that are both going to die in 10 weeks. One of them's like a 5-year-old child and the other one is like, a zygote or a fetus or whatever. Like, it seems to me that it's still worse to abuse the child that's kind of, born and already whatever, versus like killing the zygote. That seems obvious to me.
Well, so when you say worse, so the question that I would have for you is, how are we determining worse?
Well, it's very easy for me because
No.
my when I say worse, it's indexed to my preferences. But if
Hold
you
on. Is it
yeah.
logically possible that there would be no harm to the? Is it? I'm not saying good or anything. I'm just saying, Is it
Yeah.
logically possible the child isn't actually harmed?
Do you think it's logically possible to like abuse a child without the child being harmed? That seems kind of hard to imagine.
I totally think that that's logically possible.
Hmm. I mean, like,
Yeah, let me ask you.
maybe.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you.
Okay,
Yeah, let's
okay,
say a
well,
woman's roofied. Hold on. Let's say a woman's roofied and she's unconscious for every part of this and has no knowledge that this event happens. But a woman gets roofied, she gets raped, then she gets put back in the place where she was roofied. She has no knowledge of what happened, and let's say she also has no knowledge that she was ever roofied. To her, she just like dozed off for a second,
Yeah.
then she woke up.
that would be wrong, right?
Hold on. Are you saying that she has been harmed? As in, like, she feels like she's been harmed.
She might not be aware of the harm that's been done to her, but ultimately her consent has been violated in a way that we should respect.
But do you
people's
think that's really
preferences
going to
and all that.
greatly affect her in life? If
It
she
might
just like
not.
she just like has no knowledge. So like that's what I'm saying. Like it's totally logically possible for this to happen to a child. And it's like, would I still say that it's bad? Yes, obviously it was fucking bad. The person doing the thing, definitely bad.
Yeah, okay, but in my hypothetical, I'm saying that, like, you abuse the child and they fucking know about it and they're going to be traumatized for the final 10 weeks of their life versus a fetus that is, like, going to die in 10 weeks, but otherwise will just peacefully chill in the womb. And then but you kill it before it has the chance to peacefully chill in the womb or whatever. Like, you would say if it was a
Guys, hold
5-year-old
on.
child.
Murder worse than grape. I don't know what part of this you don't get. Murder worse than grape. But hold on,
Okay,
you've
so
asked
you
me a
are
bunch of
committed to
questions. I
saying
have a
that.
hypothetical for you. They still
Okay,
different point
wait.
there.
So you can ask me that, but just to be clear, you're committed to the view. You're saying that a 5-year-old child that's guaranteed to die in 10 weeks, if they experience like sexual abuse and they're traumatized for this, that this is still a more preferable outcome than killing a fetus that is not conscious, that's like a zygote, that's like guaranteed to die in 10 weeks and will never experience anything. That you're saying that is still more preferable than killing the zygote.
No, I'm not
I'm
even.
not saying you have to say
No,
yes.
I would.
come
I'm
on.
not. No, I don't actually have to say yes.
Why not?
Because I can say from my view, they're equally just as bad, and you can't tell
You
me.
don't think that though, because you just told me that killing is worse than rape. You just told me that.
I think that. Yeah, I do think that murder is worse than. Yeah, you know what? I'll just bite the bullet. Sure.
The fact you have to bite the bullet shows to me that this is very counterintuitive to you.
No,
Otherwise,
it's
you
really,
would
it's
just.
really not.
Okay. Well, fine. Okay, sure. So that's
So I
fine.
have a
I'm okay
hypothetical
with you
for you
biting the
here.
bullet. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So do you think? So is there any scenario in early pregnancy where you think a woman is unjustified in getting an abortion?
In early pregnancy,
Yeah.
I think if she's doing it out of like in an excessively unvirtuous way, then definitely there could be.
What would that mean to be as like excessively unvirtuous? Like, what if it's
For
virtuous to her?
example, well, I mean, unvirtuous would obviously be indexed to my standard of virtues. Like, obviously, she might have a different standard of virtues, but obviously, you're asking me about my opinions, right? I mean, like, you can ask her and you can argue with her if she has this standard. But from my view, like, yeah, sure, I take it to be the case that, like, look, it might be true that a fetus is not a valuable entity at this time, in the sense that I don't think it can be wronged. But that doesn't mean that we can't necessarily do unvirtuous things to things that can't be wronged in terms of the way that it affects our moral character. And I'm sure you agree because you said that intents matter. So, for example, like if a woman gets an abortion because either she's not ready to be a mother, she's financially insecure, maybe she's concerned about the psychological and physical health risks. I see all of these as perfectly reasonable, virtuous reasons that are conducive to care and self kind of preservation. So these are all completely, even if it's elective, that's fine. If a woman is aborting in the early stages, but her reasoning is like, oh, I just really can't fucking wait to see the little limbs get ripped off in the, I hope that they put a camera up there and record the fetus to watch its limbs get ripped off, right? Obviously, like, the fetus itself isn't the problem, but it's the fact that like she's taking pleasure in looking at something that takes the human form, and it's simulating this kind of like it's simulating what would look like the desecration of the human image in a way that wouldn't be conducive to caring ethics. So in that way, I think it would be wrong in terms of her virtuous character, but the act itself is fine.
Yeah. So I have questions for. So I have a couple of questions for you then. So that's actually that was essentially what my hypothetical is going to be. Is let's say a woman just like she just likes getting abortions because she thinks it's really fun and she thinks it's fun to kill babies. That's her position.
If she likes to get abortions, like I guess it's
Like just for the fun of it,
conceptual.
like she goes
Yeah.
and gets pregnant intentionally to get abortions.
Like it's conceivable to me that a woman could get pregnant intentionally to get abortions, but it's not necessarily unvirtuous. But I think that it's likely
It's
that
not
that would be.
necessarily unvirtuous.
Yeah, but it's likely that it would be, right? Like maybe she just wants to have the experience out of curiosity, and she knows that there's no harm being done or whatever. But she's not like looking at it like, oh, like I really like I just want to see this fucking thing die. You know, it's not stemming from a place that's like, you know, replicating actual lack of care or lack of empathy or lack of consideration or whatever. So I mean,
Yeah,
I
I have a
understand it's
question though for
nuanced.
you real quick.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to.
So you said it was around 20 weeks, 24 weeks is when that's when it's
Yeah.
considered a person.
Yeah, when the necessary brain structures develop, I would say, yeah.
Okay, so let's say a woman has a miscarriage at like 19 weeks. Is it okay to have sex with that corpse?
What, like of the miscarriage baby?
Yeah.
No, I would have problems with that.
Why is that?
But before I answer that, like this isn't a critique of the pro-choice view, because this is now outside of the domain, right? Because for example, like I assume that you think that killing a human being is wrong because living human organisms are valuable, but you probably also still think that fucking corpses and digging up graves is also wrong, even though those are no longer living human organisms. So you would also probably, I imagine, have a separate view that accounts for like human corpses that is separate to
I
your
do.
view on why you. Yeah, okay. So I would just have a separate view that accounts for that. I would say that if you're having sex with like you know, or whatever it was that your example was with like, you know.
Well, I
some
don't
type
get
of,
it because
like,
hold on, I don't get it. How
Oh,
is it
sorry,
a
go
corpse
ahead.
if it's not a person?
I just take corpse to be a dead human body. I don't think that has to be a person.
Wait, so it's wait, so you can be a human. I don't get how you can be a human but not a person, but okay.
Well,
That
that's
just doesn't
entailed
make
by
sense
my
to me.
view before,
I
right?
know, but that
I mean,
doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah.
That seems like, you know, counterintuitive. But
Well, you should read Derek Parfit and Jeff McMahon's views on the embodied mind account of identity, and then you'll be based and all read up.
okay,
It will
so
be very intuitive.
so if
after
a
that.
woman just goes to get abortions just because she really likes doing it, that's now unvirtuous.
Yeah, I don't think we should make it illegal because I think it's very hard to like account for these virtues. But I do think that it would be unvirtuous. Yeah, I would say something morally questionable is going on. Yeah.
We shouldn't lock her up.
I think that would be difficult to quantify. I think normally we have to lock people up by the actions they do rather than the character they hold, unfortunately.
Okay,
Because
hold on. So
there's
she
no way
gets the
to read people's
abortion.
minds.
She gets the abortion.
Yeah.
And then she takes the fetus, the dead fetus home, and she uses it for satanic rituals.
Yeah, I think obviously, yeah, there's going to be virtuous problems with this.
Can we arrest her then?
I don't know why you're invoking the law. I mean, maybe there is a threshold where I would say that we can invoke the law, but like I don't know if that's really relevant to the moral question.
Well, a law is just us enforcing our ethics. So
No, that's fine. I mean, look, even if I bit the bullet and I was like, you know, and I'm not saying I do bite this bullet because I'm sure there are different ways we could cash this out. But even if I just accepted that, like, you know, yes, like, you know, we should make it illegal for specifically like demonic, unvirtuous, like fucking crazy bitches to have abortions. Like this would only account probably, I imagine, for like barely anyone. This would be like 0.01%.
well,
of
it depends on when you're
abortions.
talking. It depends on what your time period you're talking in. But so I also want to go back to one more thing, and then I'll wrap this up quickly, Mo.
Go ahead.
Was you were saying that, like, you know, like virtuous reasons for a woman to kill her baby would be like, you know, if she's financially unstable or you know, like she like the psychological harm,
Yeah.
right, stuff like that. Let me ask you something. Can you think of any distinction or can you think of any other scenario where that justification works outside of abortion?
Well, abortion is a unique case because we're dealing with something that is violating someone's bodily autonomy and is a non-conscious entity.
How is
So
it
if you can
violating
give-
somebody's bodily autonomy? Did they get pregnant voluntarily?
Well, even if they got pregnant voluntarily, it's still violating their bodily autonomy. It doesn't change. Like you might consent to the violation of your bodily autonomy. That's
How is it a
fine.
violation of my bodily autonomy?
Well, because it's something that is growing inside of your body without your consent, right?
No. How is it without consent if it was with consent? I literally just asked you this.
Wait, well, if it's with consent, why are people getting abortions after consensual sex?
I don't know. Fucking
Yeah, well,
ask
that-
them. Most
yeah, well,
abortions are
yeah.
elective.
Yeah, exactly. So clearly, it's not the case that they're consenting to the pregnancy, right? Because
On.
they-
Is,
they-
is pregnancy a very obvious entailment of sex?
it's a possible outcome, an unlikely one if you're having protective sex. But yeah, of course, it's a possible outcome.
Sure, but do you know that it's always? Do you know that like the outcome is pretty much always there? Like it's always possible.
That's fine.
for the most
Consent
part.
to pregnancy isn't always consent to sex. Consent to sex isn't always consent to pregnancy.
So hold on. If you consent to heroin, are you saying so? You're saying that if I consent to heroin, I don't consent to the possibility, or I don't consent to an overdose?
Yeah, of course not. If you smoke cigarettes and you get fucking cancer, I'm not going to say, look, you can't be treated. You
Yeah,
consented
no,
to
I
cancer.
think
Like,
I think
obviously,
you
I'm not
did
gonna-
consent to the possibility. You totally consented to this, so you
Yeah,
can't
you
be
took
like.
the risk, but that doesn't mean you can't go and get a medical procedure to get your cancer sorted, right? You agree?
Well, the distinction is that the cancer doesn't have unique DNA. It has my DNA. The baby has unique DNA. It's its own person.
Hey, listen, I agree with that. But as I said to you before, I don't give a fuck about unique DNA. I care about whether or not it's a valuable person. And if it's not, then I just take it to be the case that it's okay.
Well,
to
look, I
adopt it.
think that ultimately your view is that you just want to kill people that you deem less valuable than you, and that includes people that are smaller than you. You
No,
want
it's
you
obviously not
literally.
a size thing. I value babies. I just don't value things that don't have any awareness or any experience at all. They've never established any psychological continuity.
I'm
Too
not
much
sure
like
that you can
rocks or
actually
flowers.
demonstrate. I'm not sure that you can actually demonstrate that a baby's self-aware.
I didn't say self-aware. I just said conscious.
What does conscious mean?
Conscious means a what it's like phenomenal state.
Did you say what it's like?
Yeah, what it's like is a way to refer to qualia.
So something that experiences qualia.
Yep.
And can you demonstrate to me that that like a baby at 6 weeks can't experience qualia?
Well, the account that I'm holding to is psychological continuity, right? And psychological continuity would be that there is an overlapping chain of psychological events that are related to one another, right? So when you're looking at like 6 weeks, no, the scientific consensus right now is that there is no qualia, there's no conscious experience occurring because there are not the
then why is
necessary
it that
parts of the
post 6
brain.
weeks you can why is it post 6 weeks Planned Parenthood offers for an additional, I think like $45, an injection of painkillers into the fetus before they perform the abortion?
Well, I don't know why they do that. That's obviously very silly because the consensus right now is that a fetus can't feel pain for 28 weeks. So I don't know why the fuck they're providing painkillers. Maybe it just makes them feel more safe because it's like, a just in
have nerve
case
endings?
feeling. But yeah, but nerve endings don't mean anything, right? Like nerve endings mean nothing when they can't be interpreted by the brain. Like, how
I
do you
still
think you're
don't-
actually experiencing pain? Like when I pinch you and you go, ouch, that's not because I pinched your finger. It's because the finger is sending a signal to your brain.
Yeah, so I still see how this is a relevant distinction though, that just because they can't feel pain or even if just because they don't have qualia, therefore we can kill him.
Well, I mean, I don't understand why it's okay to like smash rocks and pick flowers, but it's not okay to like torture dogs and kill people if it's not for some type of experience that we're interested in preserving.
Plants feel pain.
Okay, well, that doesn't seem to be the scientific consensus. I mean,
Yeah, it
plants might-
does.
Well, you just told me that fetuses at 6 weeks take
The
painkillers. 'cause they
botanists
might
agree
feel
that
pain.
botanists
That's
agree that
false.
plants feel pain.
Botanists disagree? What's your source
No,
for that?
botanists agree that plants feel pain.
Oh, yeah, what's your source for that?
Carrots feel pain when you pull them out of the ground.
Yeah, what's your source for that?
Because when I picked a dandelion, I heard scream.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
yelled
that is
at me.
scream.
That was my experience. It yelled at me.
I just saw it. It was
Based
just
on current
screaming.
scientific understanding, plants do not feel pain as humans and animals do because they lack a nervous system, brain, and specialized pain receptors. So this is
Not
like
as we
the
do,
AI
but when
overview, which
not
is,
as
like,
not as they
cringe.
don't feel pain like we do, but they do. There's actually there's chemical and physical reactions to a plant when it's pulled from the ground. So it
So when I
reacts
say
to it being pulled from the
pain,
ground.
Yeah, fine. But when I say pain, I'm talking about phenomenal pain. I don't care about
Sure, I
like
know, yeah.
automatic. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Like the negative experience of like, fuck, this shit sucks. Like that's what I don't like. I don't really
Okay,
care
well,
if like,
I
Yeah.
have one more question for you, and then I gotta
Yeah.
hop off because I gotta get to bed because it's.
yeah, that's fine. It's
Yeah,
totally
we'll
fine, man.
we'll do goodbyes and shout outs. So go ahead and let's
So
end it.
last question. So you're the pro-choicer here. You're the advocate for abortion. Can I ask you what's your favorite kind of abortion?
That's my favorite kind. Well, I think ectopic ones are pretty good because
No,
obviously.
that's a type of pregnancy. No, there's different there's different methods of abortion.
Oh,
one's
you
your
meant
favorite?
it literally. I don't know. I don't really know what the methods for abortion are. To be honest, I didn't know there were so many different ways of doing it. Like, what are the options? Can you give me the menu?
I
well,
can.
there's abortions, getting them ripped out. There's a coat hanger approach. There's
Oh, I see. Well, the co-hanger
You know.
approach seems very unpreferable, but that would be the approach if your guys' policy got through.
no, we would just like not have any.
So there's medication abortion.
Yeah, but people are gonna get them anyway.
So that's one. Then there's procedural surgical abortion. There's the vacuum aspiration, the suction aspiration. The suction device remove. So what they do is they go in, right, and they crush the baby's skull, and then they start.
Oh, yeah.
They break apart its limbs, and then they suck
the
it out.
emotional loading. Yeah, I remember now.
I'm literally describing the medical.
That's
process.
fine. Squish it like a fruit packet.
And then there's
chuck
the
it in the-
there's the
that's fine.
dilation and curettage. The cervix is dilated and the tissue is removed using suction and/or surgical
My
instruments.
favorite method is the one that the woman wants to do, that she feels the most comfortable with. Because I'm a based feminist. Okay, like I love women.
Yeah, I know. It sounds
and
like you are. It just sounds like
I
you have.
love-
Honestly, hold on. I wouldn't put you at just basic feminist. I would actually say that you worship women.
I do worship women. Okay, like I just want women to step on me every day, and ultimately,
No,
that's why I'm
it's
focused.
totally different. I want women to be able to kill their kids because otherwise they might not be able to buy the next fucking purse that they want.
I mean, yeah,
That was literally your
buying
position.
purses is cool. Like, why the fuck would I want them to experience some type of bodily autonomy violation by this like
Oh
non-conscious
my god,
entity?
I know. You're so much
Like-
better than me. I don't think that women should be allowed to kill children so they can buy a new pair of shoes. That's
Hey, listen,
fucking crazy.
children. Hey, listen, by children, if you're including like fucking like single cell organisms as children in there, then I'm just not going to agree with you. With the
That's great.
children.
I don't think that. Okay, hold on. I don't think that women should be able to intentionally end the life of the being inside of them so that they can go buy some new fucking shoes and get a mimosa. That's a retarded position. This fucking infinite materialism is retarded.
I mean,
Like,
oh, shit,
like
oh,
what
man.
justification wouldn't work for you here? Where it's just like, look, I can either just
I'm not
like,
sure.
look, I could either just like go and have an abortion and kill the baby, or I have to downgrade from a Lambo to a Ferrari. Otherwise, I won't be able to make the payments on my Lambo. Because, raising children is so expensive.
All right. Well, I don't know if we've lost him there. I think his audio might be. Oh, he's entered the studio again. So,
Wait, can you guys hear me? Okay.
There's
can hear
two
you
ghosts.
now. Yeah.
There's a ghost
just
of
to-
ghosts.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I my
Go
my
ahead and,
PC crashed, so I had to rejoin on my phone.
Yeah, no worries. We're gonna
So
wrap
what was
up
the thing you
here.
were asking me?
Yeah, the
Well,
last thing
we're-
I asked you was like, I don't understand the position of saying if a woman
what
is
were you
like,
asking me, Stillborn?
yeah, I was saying like, I don't
Wait, I
understand.
can't
How
hear
could
him
you
now.
give the just? Can you hear
Oh.
me?
Oh wait. Oh god. Wait, Mo, can you speak?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, maybe it's my audio. Hold on.
I think it is your audio.
Actually, hold on.
I can hear you just fine.
So give me just 2 seconds. While
Yeah, I
try
don't
that.
think you can. I don't think you can hear
What's
either
up?
one of us. Give him a few minutes here to see if he can sort out his audio.
Right. I'll just
Can you hear us
rejoin on
now?
my PC in 1 second. Hold on. Let me just get the link back up. Sorry about the timing. I know we're gonna wrap up in a sec. I'll let you ask your last questions and so on, if Mo doesn't mind, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I just got one more. I got one question for real quick, Mo. I know I said that like 3 times, and I promise this will be the last.
Yeah, it's fine. It's been a good back and forth, so that's why I've kind of like let it go on. But yeah, let's
Well, I can't even
we'll
tell
do-
what you're thinking because you're fucking frozen.
Yeah, I know. I'm just in a constant stoic state right now with my frozen
Have you tried
camera.
just like turning off your camera and then turning it back on?
Yeah, I tried that. Yeah.
Can you leave the studio and come back, or will that shut the thing down?
No, I can, but I
2
think
seconds. It's just
let
loading
me
up
see
just now.
here. Actually, maybe if I restart this, I can get my camera back. Doesn't look like that worked either, actually. I'm plugging my
Can you hear
actual
us yet,
camera.
Ghost?
Right. Okay, I am rejoining now. Okay. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, good. Yep. Sorry, that's echo, my friend. Sorry about that. PC kind of cooked. Okay, what were you asking me before I cut out?
Yeah, so I was asking you, so what financial justification is no longer like permissible to you? So it's like if a woman's like, look, I can either go and have the abortion and I get to keep my Lambo, or I give birth to this kid and I have to downgrade from a Lambo to a Ferrari, or I won't be able to afford the Lambo payments.
Look, I generally think that financial justifications to kill people are quite weak, obviously, right? Because I value humans quite highly, but the difference is that I value human persons highly. Okay, and because my account of personhood doesn't include fetuses for the reasons I've already laid out, right? Like when you say things like, "Well, why would it be justified in the case of abortion?" The reason why is because the fetus isn't a person. So
Well,
the,
I just want to ask,
justifications
can I
are going
kill
to
a
be much
dolphin?
lower. The bar's lower. Huh?
Can I kill dolphins?
I think it's wrong to kill dolphins unless you have good reason to do it.
I just want to. Like, I want to go hunting.
Okay, well, I think that's
Is hunting
Well-
wrong? Is eating meat immoral?
We actually already kind of
Um,
went over this. He actually views dolphins as more morally like valuable than fetuses.
I know, I heard that part. So real quick,
Yeah.
so is eating a burger immoral?
So the question of whether or not eating meat is immoral is difficult. But what I would say is that, like, I do think that killing an animal with the intention to eat it, if that animal has some type of phenomenal experience that it is to be valued, and you don't need to do it, then I think that's wrong. Then obviously, the thing with meat in the supermarket, right? Like, first of all, the meat is already dead. There's a big disconnect between the supply chain of the consumer and the person actually killing the meat. We have like a whole economy structured around it. So I do think it's wrong, and I do agree with vegan ethics. But I don't necessarily think that, like, someone that just like buys a burger and eats it is of the same unvirtuous character as someone that's like, you know, killing a cow for fun and then like watching it squirm and then eating the beef.
Look, I
afterwards,
can
right?
agree with you
It's
saying, like,
crazy.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think that if somebody just wants to walk over and just, like, you know, shoot a cow in the face because they think it's funny, I would say that there's probably something wrong there, right? Like, so from I
Yeah,
can
so
actually like,
intentions
and so,
matter
like,
a lot. Yeah.
but not only that, like from the Christian worldview, I can give an accounting for this. We're called to be the stewards of God's creatures, and we're called to, you know, to be caring to them, not to be cruel to them. So that's like at least I can give an accounting within my worldview for it. But but like, okay, so I have a question then.
Yeah.
Let's say, like, I was in an accident. Like, I was like in an accident at work, right? And my arm got cut off as a result.
Mhm.
And I don't want my arm to go to waste. Would it be immoral for me to eat my arm?
No, I don't really see that as immoral. No.
Okay, great. So my follow-up. A 19-week fetus is aborted. Can I eat it?
Yeah. So I think you have to ask yourself, like, in both of these scenarios, what type of person is likely to do both of these things, right? So the type of person that has their arm, right? This is just like clearly an extension of their body. It's just something that.
Look. The type.
Yeah.
I don't care about what the type of person who is to do this.
Well, I'm a
Is the
virtue
act
ethicist,
itself
so if you ask
is
me
the
what,
act itself inherently bad?
oh no, it's not inherently bad.
Nothing wrong with eating. So it's not inherently immoral to eat a fetus.
No, I don't take that to be inherently wrong. But
Okay.
I mean, well, you have to understand my system of right or wrong. I'm a virtue ethicist, so when you say ignore the virtuous person, you're just asking me to throw away my moral system. I think that's all
let's
that
okay,
matters.
well, hold on.
But-
I'll
but
engage with your
if
moral
you're
system. Hold
asking
on.
me like, if you're
I'll
asking me
engage
like,
with your
you
moral
know,
system directly. Hold on.
What?
The
Okay,
person
go.
is super virtuous in every other cat, like fucking 10 out of 10, always practicing them virtues, man. They're super virtuous, but they want to eat a fetus. Like, that's their one guilty pleasure. Like, they want to do it once.
Okay. I mean, yeah, look, to me, it feels like it's unlikely that someone that engages in this type of activity would be virtuous. But if you're telling me that it's stipulated in the hypothetical that they are, then okay. I mean, sure. I don't really see anything wrong with the
So
action
you got a real
itself.
stand-up guy. He's never cheated on his taxes, right? Super, like, loves his wife, takes care of his kids, makes sure he mows the old lady's grass across the street.
Virtues can be separate from each other, right? Like those might all be virtuous, but that doesn't mean that you can't have any vices, right? This could just be one vice.
This
that
is
he
his
has.
vice. This is his vice, though. The one thing that
Okay, so if it is a vice, then it's bad. It's not a virtue, so it's bad because it's a vice.
When I say vice, I mean like something that most people would be intuitively against.
Yeah.
But he wants to try it. The fetus is already, like, he's not going out and aborting a fetus to eat it. It's the one that already has been. You know, like the supermarket steak.
Yeah.
Is he doing something wrong there?
So in this scenario, like I would say that, you know, I understand you're just trying to get me to think if I think it's right or wrong, and I mean, I would just say that, like, it does just depend on the character, and because of that, it is entirely possible you could give me a scenario where it's right, or at the very least, it's like not a problem, at least from a moral perspective. And if anything, I would actually go even further. I would say that's probably a better thing to do than to eat an animal.
Okay,
was like
let's go ahead and land it there, Ghost, and we'll call it at that.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
All right, so you got any more to say, or you want to add any more to it?
That's all I needed.
Okay, good. Okay.
I had someone that I know someone that's requesting to join from the backstage, but I have a feeling they might be a bit late. But he messaged me asking.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is the extent of it. We've gone a little bit past what the goal was tonight, but I do appreciate you all for coming up. Ghost, appreciate you standing on the panel and having the back and forth. Steelborn, really appreciate you coming up as well. Steelborn, why don't you go ahead and shout your channel out and let us know where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Steelborn on YouTube and on X. You can find me sometimes during the week giving cultural commentary on stuff or doing various debates, and then you can always find me over at Verbal Combat on Fridays.
All right, thanks for coming.
All right,
Ghost, go ahead, and if you want to shout anything out, go ahead. And thanks again for coming and showing up for the debate and sticking around for the open panel. And anybody who missed it, try to come back next time. We'll have another open panel, and maybe you can come up a little sooner, and we'd love to hear from you. But go ahead, Ghost.
Yeah, I'm down for panels. It's been fun. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any like YouTube channel or like, Twitch or anything like that. But if you want to find me and you want to argue with me, I'm very active in like debate discords. So you'll catch me in like I spend the most time in modern day debate. So if you ever go in that Discord, then you'll see me in the voice chats very often arguing a bunch of different shit. So if you want to come and argue with me, then I'll be in there.
Sounds good. Look to see you next time for maybe we get you on for another debate another time. So thanks for coming.
Hell yeah. All right.
Take care. All right. Well, my camera, guys, is frozen. It betrayed me at the end there, but that's okay. I'm sure you can still hear me. I appreciate you all for showing up and the chat. Thank you guys for coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe for some more debates like this. And until next time, you'll find me here doing debates or on VK. And I'll see you next time because I always have more rebuttals. Take care. God bless.